Alright guys, welcome back. We are playing Higurashi When They Cry. Chapter 6, Tsumihoroboshi. Last time, there's a van. They are here. They're here. I don't know what else to say other than that. What the hell is going on? I really don't know. What I was thinking about, because I was really thinking about this van, right? The last time we saw the van, I said, this has to be the same van that, hit Keiichi and Onikashi, that I have never had an explanation for, other than saying it was just some crazy, it's coincidence or something. I don't know. Who knows, right? Um, but maybe crazy connection to make, but it just makes me think. The only other time I think a van has been mentioned was in chapter 4 when the kid was kidnapped, right? That's the only other time, and if I think about a van, that's the only other time it's come up. And now I don't know if that means anything. I don't, because obviously it's pretty stereotypical. That's the thing, if you're gonna kidnap a kid, you use a white van, right? Like that, literally. Um, but I don't know. That is a connection. So I'll think about that. I suppose, maybe, right? If that is a connection that means anything, what the hell? What do I think is going on? What is this van? What are they doing? Why do they want Rena? What is some kind of connection to Takano, right? That's the only thing I can think, right? Is let's say because Takano's not dead, right? Almost certainly not, right? There's no way she's dead, right? So if this is somehow a group connected to her in some way, but that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? So Takano gave Rena her notebook, and then she faked her own death quite shortly after, and now she's sending her goons after Rena to do what? To get her notebook back? You know what I mean? Why give it to her in the first place if she knew she's going to be faking her death and that doesn't make any sense to me. So, I don't know. I guess we don't know. Yeah, maybe I'm assuming too many things here. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I am assuming too many things because I guess we have no idea what actually happens with Takano and with Tanagashi, right? I guess there's no like I don't know what kind of situation could possibly come up where she suddenly and unexpectedly has to fake her own death, and or even be in the position in which to do that because there is a body, even if it isn't hers. But ignoring all of that, um, I guess we don't know if it was a plan that she had worked out for a long time, or for some reason she had to suddenly fake her own death for some reason. But now what? I think she's sending a white van full of goons after Rena to do what? Right? Just to get our notebook back, I guess. That's stupid. That doesn't there's gotta be a little bit more to it. That doesn't really make any sense. Um, but that's just the only thing I can think of. I just have no idea. Right? I just have literally what the hell is going on. That's just I guess that's my summary of the situation is what the hell is going on. Okay, I guess we'll just continue. And then what was going on with Keiichi in chapter 1, right? What is happening, right? Takano, I assume Takano knows what's going on though. You know what I mean? I assume Takano knows stuff about the crazy shit that makes you go crazy. So let's say she somehow knew that Keiichi in chapter 1 and Rena in this chapter are being affected by it. I, I guess. But then what is she doing? I still don't know. Right? She's trying to give them insane delusions by running over them with a white van. That doesn't, why? To troll them? Right? I have no answers. I have no explanation. I really couldn't tell you. Okay.
すまなかった、レナ。俺はどこかでレナの話を疑ってたよ。
I love this music so much.
本当にすまない。
I don't think I believed you.
いいよ、ケイチ君。
Is he gonna tell her
そのおかげで
about
待ち伏せをやり過ごせたんだしね。
あいつらは何者なんだ。そのお社様信仰を復活させようとする信者の集団の手先。
This is a very critical difference between here and chapter 1, because obviously it feels like Rena is almost in Keiichi's shoes that he was in chapter 1, you know what I mean? But the difference here is that she actually trusts Keiichi, right? Instead of, how Keiichi was immediately turned against all of his friends and everything, That's got to be the difference, right? That has to be the one, hope we can hold on to,
彼らには そういう自覚はないと思う。
Okay, in terms of this whole reviving the cult of Oyashiro-sama, I feel like Rena is just really, like, jumping to conclusions here. I don't know if there's really any reason to think that is what is going on, you know? Like, I feel like it's too... I don't know. I feel like there were too many logical leaps there for me to at all accept that that is, like, a motivation of anyone. So, I don't know. You know, like, obviously, I'm just kind of on a completely different wavelength than Rena, because I think there's this whole thing going on with, like, Takano and stuff. And I guess I don't know what Takano's motivations are, but I don't think it has anything to do with reviving the cult of Oyashiro-sama. Boy, what do I think her motivations are? Like, I've just kind of said, like, some vague stuff about her doing something for some reason. But I really don't know. Right? I really don't know. That's kind of the... I guess that's kind of the point, you know? Like, if I want to solve all of this, if I want to figure all of this out, I can't just say I think Takano's to blame for all of these different things. And not... You know, I gotta figure out why. I gotta figure out, like, what's actually happening, you know? Okay.
ダム戦争の最中に園崎家が裏でいろいろと暗躍したって話は俺も少しは聞いたことがあるな。
Okay, but I don't know. I'm just trying to think. Like, is that the way I've thought about like all of the murders, all of the disappearances and stuff since the damn conflict, since this started, right? It's just that there are these individual explanations for every single one of them that feel like they make sense to me, or at least for like most of the ones, right? We don't really have an explanation for like Sadako or Rika's parents, right? But all of the other ones, like counting like all of the ones we've seen like in the chapters, you know, and like in 1983, they all like make sense, right? There's clearly no crazy like conspiracy going on behind them, right? Behind Sadako, I mean, behind Satoshi killing his aunt, or anything like that, right? Or any, you know, Keiichi killing Rena and Miyano, or whatever you want to say, or like Tomitake and Takano, it seems like that's Takano, right? So, sure. I mean, is it possible that somehow Takano has been pulling weird strings in the background to make this happen? Maybe, I guess. I just have to know, like, why, you know what I mean? Like, sure, I guess I could believe it. But I don't know why she would do that. What motivation would Takano have for wanting to... You know, I guess if we think back to Chapter 3 with Rika, when Takano killed Rika, right? Because, I mean, again, I guess that's kind of just an assumption I'm making. I mean, again, it's just, like, that was clearly, like, Takano's, like, journal, right? Like, her notes saying, like, oh, I wonder what would happen if the incarnation of Oyashiro-sama died, and then Rika's dead immediately, right? You know what I mean? So... It's Takano, right? It has to be. Why? Right? Like, why is she... Like, is that what this is all leading up to? What's the point, though? You know? I just have no idea. I have no idea what her motivations or goals could be at all. You know? I really don't. Do I think she hates Hinamizawa? She's trying to destroy Hinamizawa for some reason? Sure, maybe. I don't know. Why would she do that, though? I have no clue, you know? I guess that's the... It makes me think of, like, the start of Mayakashi. When it said at like the, you know, like the beginning splash screen, it said like the what was it? Like the motivations of the perpetrator will be difficult to understand or something. That's how I feel about Takano, you know? Maybe that's what I was referring to. Like, I don't know, because Takano, it feels like, but she really is pulling the strings in that way. Like in Chapter 5, she showed up with Shion to like, you know, gave her the journal and all of this, you know, gave her the notes. But is that really... But that just feels like such a weird, like, way to go about it. To go about what, even, right? Just to make these random kids start killing each other and killing people? But why? What is she trying to achieve? What is she trying to accomplish with that? I don't know. Whatever happened at the end of Chapter 3? I guess, because like, you know, Takano killed Rika. Something happened at the end of Chapter 3 that wasn't a natural disaster, right? I feel like the author is making us think it definitely was not a natural disaster in any sense. So then the question is, what is it? What was it? Well, I don't know. I mean, if the gas wasn't a natural disaster, it had to have been, like, people who did it, right? But But why? Takano's goons came in and killed everyone for fun? Like, I don't know, right? But, like, and then that's crazy, because remember, in Chapter 3, at the end of Chapter 3, they said, too, that the gas, like, came back, right? Didn't they say that they tried to go back, like, a year later, and they couldn't, and, like, the gas, it happened again or something, right? What the hell? So what the hell does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, what? I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like we're getting so late into the story now that I just wish I had more solid conclusions to, like, land on here, but I just really don't. You know, I just really don't. I am quite reasonably confident that Takano is the one behind a lot of stuff, but how much stuff? How much stuff is there even someone behind it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I guess I just don't know. Let me read that line again, sorry. Okay.
有名な話だよね。これは大石さんに聞いたんだけど、ダム戦争の最中に誘拐事件があったんだって。これも秘密の事件なんだけど、なんでも建設大臣の孫を誘拐してダム建設中止の約束を裏取引したんだって。
Okay, so like, I mean, like to just go even further down this rabbit hole, I guess. It's just all might just be predicated on nonsense. So like, I take this all with a grain of salt, I suppose. If the van that kidnapped the kid in Chapter 4 that led to all of this happening, right? If that was the same, if that was like Takano's goons or something, right? Because remember the Sonozakis and all of that. It was so unclear if the Sonozakis actually had like a real connection to it or anything and all of that, you know what I mean? If that actually was tied to Takano in some way, why would Takano want to do that? You know? If Takano's goal in the end was to destroy Hinamizawa with whatever happens at the end of Chapter 3, why did she want to prevent the dam from being built as well? I don't know. Is she trying to create... Is she trying to, like, make the lore seem correct? You know what I mean? Because that's just what it feels like. It feels like she's trying to make it seem like the lore around Oyashiro-sama is somehow true, even though she knows it isn't, because she is the one perpetrating a bunch of this stuff and doing it herself, and she doesn't believe in it either. Which doesn't make any sense. Why would she do that? I don't know. And what I mean by that, I guess, is just like the whole thing with Rika, how it seems like, you know, she killed Rika to see what would happen, and nothing happened, right? I don't think Rika's death triggered some kind of magical natural disaster that killed everyone. It was some kind of artificial thing, right? And let's say Takano's behind it. Takano's just feeding her own delusions or something. Takano wishes all of this Oishiro-sama stuff was true, so she's making it true herself, even though she knows it isn't. Like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense, you know what I mean?
大臣が犯人との取引に応じる姿勢を見せたため、事件を公にしないことになったんだって。大石さんは当時、その事件に関わったから知ってるんだって。
God, she really told her all that, huh? I guess.
大石さんが言うには、孫の誘拐や大臣の脅迫などの手口は恐ろしいほどに高度だったんだって。その事件は、園崎家が命令を下したことだけは分かっているけど、結局未解決なんだって。
Do they even know that, though? I don't remember exactly if the connection between the kidnappers and the Sonozaki family was ever firmly established beyond just, like, you know, or you said that it's, you know, the vague sentiment that she would want something like that to happen, you know what I mean? Which, it totally could be either way, you know, it could be a connection to Sonozaki's and maybe Takano, even though my whole Takano idea could just be complete nonsense, you know, so I don't know.
当時、園崎家の当主である園崎お涼は武装闘争の方針を打ち出していて、配下である暴力団組織の中に特攻隊を組織したそうなの。
Right.
ダム計画の撤回がどうしても望めないときは、建設省に突入して武力制圧しようなんて、そんな物騒な計画を本気で練っていたらしいの。
And then why? God, we are really... I promise I'm reading everything. I know this seems like it has nothing to do with anything they're saying. Why do you think Takano wants to blame everything on the Sonozakis, though, right? Why did she tell Keiichi in Chapter 3 it's the Sonozakis? Why did she tell Rena it's all the Sonozakis? You know, what did the Sonozakis have anything to do with Takano's, like, whole thing, you know? I just have no idea. What is she trying to do? Okay, we got it all figured out. We're fine. Everybody knows that the Sonozaki family had tried to stop the dam project, even if it meant breaking the law. Well, can't blame them. So I wasn't so surprised to hear that she had a dangerous plan like that. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Mion who came up with the idea. The plan sounded just like her. Maybe.
その計画は計画のままで終わったんだけど、それを実行するための特攻隊の訓練というのは行われていて、相当高度なものだったらしいよ。
Oishi had uncovered the information right after the dam conflict ended. At the time, Oryu even said that if the village was going to be submerged, all members of the Onigashiki Guardians would choose to stay in their houses and drown. So because Oryu was behind those things, I couldn't just laugh off the idea of an armed assault on the Ministry of Construction. Okay. According to the information Oishi seized, she planned a suicide mission as a last resort when the dam conflict started to heat up, in case the resistance wasn't successful. She had actually obtained weapons and put people through training for the sake of that plan. Wow, okay. The Special Attack Corps were flown to America, having received a huge amount of money from Oryu for the operation. In the southern desert of the United States, some retired military soldiers gave them highly professional training. I guess. Well, the plan was never carried out. The Special Attack Corps became a death squad under the direct control of Oryu after they came back from America. They were involved in many unsolved terrorist incidents, and they succeeded in kidnapping the grandson of the minister as well. Not the roaming death squads, oh god.
嘘みたいな話だな。
みーちゃんがよくヘリの操縦から無線機まで何でもできるみたいなことを言うでしょ。
So is Rena's idea then that the people in the white van are like those people, I suppose, right? Okay.
あれは本当。
Maybe, I guess. God, when did Mion say that? I totally remember that though. I just don't remember what chapter that was in.
みーちゃんも当時その訓練に参加してるらしいよ。
Oh god, really? You think? Maybe? Hey, Rena, do you have any reason to think that other than the fact that Mion said that? Like, we're really, like, come on.
まあ、みーちゃんの話はともか
Oh
く
god.
このひなみ沢には大臣の孫すらも誘拐できるだけの暗殺部隊が存在するってことだけは
Do I have to believe that? Do I have to? Do we have any... I don't know if the Death Squad exists, Rena. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know if I have to believe that at all. Right? What do you mean I have to at least believe that, you know? I don't really think so. I don't know if I'm following completely, girl. I don't know. I don't know about that. But maybe. I didn't take a close look at the 4 men in the white van today, but thinking about it, they did look professional in a way. They were pretending to just be taking a break, but I could tell they were tense the whole time.
あいつらはレナの命を狙っているのか？
多分狙ってはいないと思う。
Okay.
殺すだけだったら私もう殺されてるよ。
I guess like my whole issue with like Rena's theory and everything is all just predicated on the idea that I don't think the Sonozakis have anything to do with any of this, right? And then the only other person who would know anything about Rena or her situation is Takano. So, like, yeah, it just kind of makes sense to me, I guess.
じゃあ狙いはまさかあれか？高野さんのスクラップ帳。
圭一君が見た通り、連中は相当警戒心が強いみたいで、隙を見つけない限りは強引な手段に訴えてこないみたいなの。
Okay.
だって強引な連中なら私の自宅の寝込みを襲えばいいんだから。
But sure, I suppose.
結構慎重だってことになるな。
多分私がスクラップ帳を持っているという確信がないからだと思うの。彼らはミオさんを殺し、持っていたスクラップ帳をすべて処分しようとした。ところが一番重要な数冊が。
Ah, I see. Okay, okay.
それで自分が狙われているのを察して誰かに預けたんじゃないかと考えてるんだと思うの。その有力候補が。
How would... Okay, like, I'm not agreeing with Rena's theory, but how would they link them to you,
でも確証がないから、
right?
強引な手段に訴えられないんだろう。
Like, I guess that someone saw you at the library with her or something?
レナ、お前、かなりヤバい橋を渡ってるんじゃないのか？
It's very, huh? Very.
そうだね。ちょっと怖いかな。でも、そう簡単には
Oh,
されない。
God. Okay.
私は大石さんと連携して。
Rena, unfortunately, that can't be a good thing. That can't be a good
有事の際
thing.
に備えて常に連絡を取り合っているしね。
そうだ、大石さんはどう言ってるんだよ。
大石さんも園崎家が何らかの暗躍をしていないか監視してくれてるよ。
高野さんのスクラップ帳の話はしたのか？
Ooh, okay.
話してない。
Good,
警
maybe.
察には話した方がいいだろ
It's Keiichi, unfortunately,
う。それに
they're
警
probably
察な
not.
らきっと力になってくれるぞ。
I don't think that's never really worked out in this story, sadly. In chapter 4, I guess it did. Agasaka's the goat.
私は君にだって信じてもらえるか自信がなくて話せないでいるんだよ。大石さんに話したって絶対
Very
に信じ
true.
てもらえるわけがない。
I still don't know what Oishi, actually thinks any of this, really.
なあレナ、もう煙に巻くのはなしだ。話してくれ。一体何なんだ。何がスクラップ帳に書いてあるんだ。高野さんが消されるほどの何が書いてあるんだ。
Will she tell him?
簡単に言うとこのスクラップ帳に書いてあることが事実なら
Ah,
彼らの
right.
神が貶められることになるの。
神を貶める。
Hmm.
お社様の神聖性が失われてしまう。
Sanctity of Oyashiro-sama will be lost. Is that what Takano wants?
だからお社様信仰を
I
復活させ
don't
よう
know.
とする
I
彼
don't
ら
know.
は絶対に伏せたいと思っているの。
Interesting.
すまんレナ、もう少し分かりやすく言ってくれ。
I just can't help but feel like in some way Rena's trying, basically this is describing some part of Takano's motivations to me, even though Rena isn't talking about that. You know what I mean? I don't know. Because the way Takano goes, if Takano is the mastermind pulling the strings behind a bunch of stuff, then... Which, again, I feel like I, myself, have made so many logical leaps here, so, I can't be hating on Rena too much, because I have done the same thing to reach this conclusion about my idea of Takano. I just throw everything into the Takano bin, you know what I mean? I don't know, right? But the way Takano, goes about this and does everything, is that what she's trying to do? She's trying to make people believe in Oishiro-sama, even though she herself doesn't, and she knows it's not true? She thinks it isn't true, at least, Is that even what she actually thinks, though, I guess, she could just be lying, But no, but she must know it's not, because if she is the one pulling all the strings and doing all the stuff behind the scenes, then she knows there's no, weird Oishiro-sama curse thing going on, right? I mean, there's the crazy shit that makes you go crazy, which I think she knows about, but what even is that, what... Oh, God.
つまりどういうことなんだ。
つまりお社様は神様じゃないってことなの。
神様じゃ
Isn't a god, huh? I had no idea what she read that made her so certain, but whatever it was, it'd be sacrilegious for people who believe so strongly in Oishiro-sama. Yeah, like the parasite thing.
お
Yeah.
社様の教えっていくつもあるけど、その原点はたったの一つしかない。それは中から出るな、外から入るなというもの。この大原則を守るためにその他の競技を発展させたと言ってもいいくらい。
Sure,
人
sure.
間を愛せとか家内安全とか縁結びの神様なんてのは本当に後から取ってつけたものでしかないの。
In other words, Oishiro-sama existed solely to stop the villagers from going outside the village. Oishiro-sama doesn't bless the villagers or protect them from disasters. The people that believe Oishiro-sama does all that for them, but the truth is that the people abused his name for that purpose, generation after generation, and nothing more than that. Okay. Why did Oishiro-sama descend in the first place? Because demons came out of Onigafuchi Swamp and attacked people.
実はこの時点で解釈が違ってたの。鬼が湧き出して襲ったんじゃない。湧き出したものにやられると人々を襲う鬼になるの。
湧き出したもの。どういう意味だよ、レナ。
Whatever came out of the swamp and possessed people, crawled into their blood, controlled them, and turned them into demons. People had no resistance against whatever it was that came out of the swamp. They became demons, attacked the other villagers, and turned them into demons as well. That's right. It was a weird, infectious disease that broke out from the swamp. It made the infected people go out of control. The villagers saw this disaster and explained it like so. It's so weird, right? Because this feels like an explanation for the crazy shit that makes you go crazy. I just don't think it is. You know what I mean? Just because it's so... Because it just feels like there's no way the whole maggot thing can be right. And I guess it's just hard to say why, but I guess it's just because it's tied up in, Rena's whole... thing. So you know what I mean? That I just don't think it's true. I just don't. And I guess it's hard to explain why. But, is any explanation gonna, feel right to me? I don't know. Well, because here's my thing, right? Because it's obvious that, like, when people go crazy in the story, there's always, like, this like, emotional aspect to it that I guess just feels like is not explained by the parasite infectious disease hypothesis, you know? But I guess, like, the whole emotional aspect of it is just kind of, like, a thematic, like... I don't know. I guess it could be true. I just don't think it is. I just really don't think it is, you know? I just feel like it's, like... Especially because Takano thinks that, too. But I do think that Takano probably knows the truth of what's going on, so... But if she knows the truth, would she really write it down in her journal and give it to someone? I don't think she would. So that alone just makes me think it's just not... It just can't be the case, you know? That is the truth of the story of the demons that came out of Onigachi Swamp. It sure does, I guess. I guess it does. Ooh.
そうだね。正確には正しくないけど、そう、医者と呼べる存在。それが降臨して伝染病を治療したの。
Okay, okay.
でも、それは治療ではなく、対処療法でしかなかった。
All his treatment could do was reduce the symptoms of the infection. Villagers could have their symptoms suppressed, but there was no way to kill the parasites that had infested them. After a while, the village was divided into two groups. One group is made up of the people who were already infected, and the other consisted of the people who weren't. Without a cure for the disease, the uninfected looked down on the people who could only suppress their violent symptoms. They even talked about drowning them in the swamp. Ooh. But they knew killing the infected people wouldn't solve the problem. The parasites came out of their water sources, including Onigachi Swamp. God, this feels so, like... this feels so thematically relevant to just the story in general, right? Saying that killing the infected people won't solve the problem. All stuff like that. It just feels like so relevant to just the general themes of the story at large, right? How just... I don't know, right? How much I wanted to kill Tepe back in chapter 3. Just all that kind of thing, right? How that's just this whole idea of division and you know, all of that. It's just, that's kind of like the theme of the whole story, in a sense. One of them, at least, you know. The parasites came out from their water sources, including Onigachi swamps. Swamps. They couldn't fill them all in, for if they did that, they would lose their access to their drinking water. They could have chosen to leave the village, but that was hard for them, for that was the location of their ancestors' graves. Under the power of Oishiro-sama, infected people could live without showing symptoms. So, both those who were infected and those who weren't decided to live together equally and coexist with the parasite. Oishiro-sama was impressed by the villagers' decision. He decided to stay there and continue to treat them. I see. And I guess the idea is that knowledge of treating it has been, like, passed down or something? To Eerie? Which is, like, possible. I still feel like, just, like, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Just, like, evolutionarily, it's hard for me to accept that, I suppose. I guess I mean, like, I don't know that much about how parasites... I just feel like for a kind of parasite like this to exist... Well, no, I guess I would just have to make the jump from, like, animals to humans or something, right? So it would take a long time. It would take a whole lot of natural selection for a parasite like that to be able to, like, you know, live off of stuff that only exists in Hinamizawa. Something, whatever. Something in the air or the water or its food source, whatever it is. Something that's only in Hinamizawa, right? And then, like, give this very negative reaction when it doesn't have that in order to, like, have its host go back, right? Or at least not in order to do that, but that's, like, the outcome that would have, you know? But I can imagine that happening with, like, animals, and then this is, like, the story of it jumping to humans, you know? You know, that would make sense. Not that I think a parasite this, like, complicated could, like, even potentially make the jump from animals to humans that easily at all, but it's totally besides the point, so, like, who knows?
お社様のたたりの正体。
Like, I'm not gonna be, like, critical of all of the, like, science behind everything in the whole story, right? That would be silly. The strongest symptoms of the infectious disease were violence and delirium. The infected people acted just like demons, and the impact of seeing them in the throes of the disease was strong enough to make others describe them as such. They couldn't even let people leave who had just come to the village. If they had left after being infected, they might go crazy in a faraway land, turn into a vicious demon, and cause a disaster. Infected people were never allowed to leave. When an infected person left the village, they brought him back by any means necessary. That was what it really meant to be demoned away. I see. Okay.
だとしたら、俺やレナも村人はみんなその病気に感染してることになるよな。でも俺たちはひなみ沢を離れたって別に何の問題もない。
Well, you can go to like Okonomiya. You can go close enough, right?
結婚したりして
Or
遠方に住んでる人も少なくないらしいじゃないか。ひなみ沢をちょっと離れたからって錯乱して鬼と化したなんて聞いたことない。
God, you know what's crazy about all this is like at the end of chapter 3, there's that whole thing about like people having like weird symptoms and stuff like afterwards. What they came up like a name for it or something. I wrote it down, I think, didn't I? I don't remember what the term they used was. Maybe I didn't. Like some of my notes, I just have like I just wrote down Rika. Like on like page 5 of my notes, I just wrote down Rika. What is that possibly supposed to mean? Anyway, I don't think I wrote it down. It was I don't remember what they called it, but you know, they're talking about people like exhibiting like symptoms and stuff after like the disaster, you know.
それはまさにお社様の目論見通りにことが進んだからなんだよ。
Okay.
意味がわかるかな。この村を長い間封印してきたのは
I see.
寄生虫の害を弱めるためなの。
How would that work exactly? Hosts are very important for parasites. If something happens to the host, the parasites that live in the host have to share the same fate. In other words, if the host went crazy and attacked people, the host would be captured and killed, which means that the parasites would die with the host too.
そうか。自然と
I suppose. Sure, kinda. I mean, it depends, right? Like some... I guess. Like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of natural selection, but like, I don't think... do we really want to like go down this whole... Do I really want to be like super critical of this whole idea? It's not really. I just think natural selection, like, I don't think it would be on this like level, you know what I mean? I don't think, like... If the parasite makes you go crazy and attack people, I don't think that would be something that would so easily... Well, maybe it would. I just don't... It's only been a few hundred years, though, so I just don't think it would be possible. I don't think over this small time frame that would really be possible. You know what I mean? Like, I guess the idea there would be natural variance in the effect that the parasite has on the people that it is infecting. The people who act the craziest and the most insane and attack people because of their reaction to it. Those people would be captured and killed, so then those parasites that are, like, have that effect on people generally, right? Then the descendants of those parasites would generally be in that same area too. They would die. They wouldn't be able to spread to new hosts. And it's the parasites that have less of an effect that make you act so crazy and insane and attack people that would, like, only exist now in the modern day. And maybe, I guess that's possible. Like, I guess I can imagine that happening. I just think that would take a long time, and I don't know if for a parasite like this that would have that kind of effect on someone, if it would have that amount of, like, variance, you know? If an effect of the parasite is to make you go crazy and attack people, and, like, that is, like... Because it's supposed to make you go crazy and attack people only if you leave, right? Is a reaction to the parasite, like not having its food source, I suppose, you know? I just don't know if there'd be enough, like, natural variance in that, right? To, like, make because there's gonna be that much of a difference between the people who really go crazy and attack people and the people who only go a little bit crazy and attack people, like, in terms of them being captured or not, and, like, the parasite being able to spread from there. I don't know. Anyway, who cares? Let's continue.
そう。この地で長く生活を重ね、厳しい戒律で生活を続けた結果。
Conceptually, I can imagine it. It depends, I
寄生虫に対し
guess.
過敏な人間は錯乱して結局殺された。
Okay, sure. I guess you could say it's the people themselves, right? That it's an effect that you know, on some people it will have more of an effect. But I guess I don't know how. But then I guess at that point it's almost like it's natural selection. I mean, artificial selection, kinda. What's the difference, I guess? But for, like, the people in Hinamizawa, and them being sensitive to the parasite or not the actual parasite itself and the effect it has on the people. You know what I mean? Sure.
また感染者を錯乱させてしまうような強すぎる寄生虫はこれもまた
Yeah,
錯乱した宿主と共に
I guess there would be kind of a, it would kind of be like a double thing, you know what I mean? Like, there could be really strong parasites, like whatever, right? That really have that effect on you and make you really go crazy and attack people. But they could be in someone who, for some reason, somehow is affected less by it because of their own, like, genetics or whatever, right? Whatever you want to say would affect that. And, like, I guess those parasites could still spread to other people, but then if those people, aren't as insensitive to it as that original person is, then yeah, they'll, like, die or whatever. They'll be captured, killed, whatever, as they were saying. And it'll be kind of the same way around, right? It could be a parasite that doesn't have that strong of an effect in someone who would be sensitive to it. But because that parasite that's in them doesn't have as much of an effect, yeah, sure. Okay. It makes sense.
その結果、寄生虫と人間は互いに相性がいい種だけが残っていった。これこそがお社様の伝説が伝える鬼と人の血は混じり合ったことの真相。
I mean, all of this is totally, like, it doesn't, I just think it's interesting. I guess it doesn't really matter. So, my bad.
つまりその寄生虫はほとんど無害なわけなのか。
Parasite is almost harmless. I suppose. I guess. I mean, if this whole parasite thing is in some way supposed to be an explanation for the crazy shit that makes you go crazy, then it's certainly not almost harmless, right? But then again, that doesn't really fit into Rena's theory, does it, right? Because it's supposed to happen when the parasite isn't getting, like, the food source it needs, when you leave Hinamizawa, so it doesn't have that anymore. But, like, for example, with, like, every character we've ever seen go crazy in the story, if the idea is that they're being affected by the parasite, that doesn't really work, unless, I mean, who knows, maybe Rena will address that. Yeah, right, everyone has parasites, unfortunately. I mean, I assume most parasites are like tiny microscopic things that no one will ever know exists within them, Ooh, I see. The guts of infected people who went crazy. Oh god, we're gonna have an explanation for that too, huh? Oh my god, I guess. Oh god. I see. Is that almost an explanation for the syringe that exists today, right? Like, is it somehow the ancestor of that? Okay.
強すぎる寄生虫のせいで死んだ犠牲者からワクチンを作り出し、同時に村人の抵抗力も高めていった。
Okay. Is that how that works? I guess I don't know. Like, can your immune system, like, deal with a parasite like that? You know what I mean? Like a giant, like, because these are giant maggots that, like, are they're big, right? You know what I mean? Can your immune system, like, deal with that? You know what I mean? Like, when someone has, like, a tapeworm or something, your immune system can't kill it. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm just under the impression that your immune system can't deal with, like, things on that scale, I don't know. Maybe it could deal with somehow the effects of it, I suppose, right? However you want to say that works. Like, I have no idea. I don't know. Oh, German. It's maybe, I guess. Oh god, we're tying it back to the, what was it, Unit 731? Was that it, right? The stuff in Chapter 2 that they talked about, right? I don't remember what number it is, but oh no. Oh god. Oh. I thought we were going back to World War II again. Like, man. I mean, obviously, all this stuff with Oishiro-sama and the swamp must have happened a long time ago, right? It would have been way before, like, World War II and all that stuff, right? I don't think that Rena's story is too crazy to be true anymore. It still sounds crazy, of course, but I've never heard any theories that explain the legend of the village better than this one. Same, right? Like, this is such a good explanation for so many aspects of so much stuff. I just think, unfortunately, it's all predicated on a bunch of logical leaps. And it's like, I can totally understand Rena's thought process here, coming up with all these explanations for all these things, that it feels like they make so much sense. But unfortunately, I don't know if we have the evidence at all to accept this as being the case. You can come up with reasonable sounding explanations all you want, but that is very different from actually knowing whether those things are true, right? So, I don't know, right? Because there's like any number of things you could come up with that could be explanations for stuff like this. And this is a pretty comprehensive theory that she has here. But I just don't know if there's any... I just don't know if it's true. You know, I don't really think it is. I don't think it is at all, unfortunately. Maybe, I feel like there have to be some kind of aspects of truth here for sure, right? There have to be, you know, about something. I don't know, right? There definitely are. There totally are. This feels like, if it's not a half-truth, it's a quarter truth, at the very least, or something, you know? There's something here that means something. But I don't think this is just it. I don't think this is the truth, you know?
多分俺も感染してるんだよな。なんだか体中が痒くなってくるぜ。
人間だって一つの宇宙だよ。
Person is like a universe. It just feels like such a tempting thing to believe, right? This idea that it's all this parasites and that it's all, you know? It almost feels in a way too good to be true, as terrible as that sounds, because of how terrible this actually is. This idea of this evil parasite infecting all of these people, and it's maggots in your blood and all of this shit, you know? But it almost feels too good to be true, just because it's like, you know, then we don't have to... you know, there's no, like, human perpetrator being evil and doing crazy shit, you know? And I don't know if that's gonna be the truth, you know? I kind of feel like we do have to face that at some point, you know? I feel like we need a counter to, the feel-good idea of, like, trust in humanity itself and everything that we've been presented with. I feel like there is something nefarious that exists in some way, right? Whether it's Takano or something, or someone else. And, I don't know. This feels like it is in a way, Rena wanting this theory to be true. It almost feels like it's like, influenced so much by, like, that whole amazing scene we just had a few episodes ago. About, like, trusting other people and all of this, you know? It's like, this is such a... If this explanation was true, then it's like we don't even have a real culprit, you know what I mean? And I think there is a culprit, unfortunately, and I think that's something we do have to face, so... I don't know. Indeed. A very important part of your body, right? Yeah.
ああ、よくヨーグルトとかの CM で言って
Sure, like probiotics.
確かにそうだ。
これもミオさんの受け売りだけど、例えばシロアリっているでしょ。木材を食い荒らしてしまうアリ。実はシロアリって木材を消化できない。
Oh, is that true? I never knew that.
体内に寄生している特殊な細菌が
Ah,
食べた木材
that is very
を
cool.
分解してくれて、その結果シロアリは木材を吸収できるんだって。
I mean, hey, for people, that's, like, very true, too. Like, your gut bacteria and stuff are so important for, like, being alive, right? Like, yeah.
これも寄生虫と共生している一例だね。
I didn't know that. When I hear the word parasites, I feel creeped out almost instinctively. But now I know some of them aren't so bad to us.
だから、
Yeah, there's symbiotic parasites, right?
鬼ヶ淵村から突如発生した奇怪な伝染病は、今ではほぼ根絶されたと言っていい。根絶じゃないね。無害になったと言うべきだね。
最初はとんでもない話だと思ってたけどさ、こうして種明かしがされると、なんだかサイエンスな感じがして。
It really is, right? It really is very impressive that we have this whole explanation that feels like it makes so much sense, but I'm also, like, quite positive this is not the truth at all, you know? So...
私たちには面白いよ。でも、お社様を神として崇める人たちにとっては、これはとても不愉快な説。
Of course. If Takano-san's theory is correct, Oyashiro-sama isn't a god. And the punishment by that god, namely the curse of Oyashiro-sama, that people have been so afraid of, will turn out to have just been symptoms of an infectious disease. I see. That's what dethroning God would mean.
だとすると、 もしこの伝染病の病原体を特定して世間に発表されるようなことがあれば、信仰は破綻しちまうな。
Maybe. I don't know if it'd be that simple, though, you know? I think people would believe in Oishiro-sama for, like, spiritual reasons, either way, honestly.
そう。
Oh, it's Rena now, huh? Did the color of her text change again a little bit? I can't tell. Well, no, I think... I mean, I don't know if it's that simple. I kind of think a lot of people in Hinamizawa have probably believed in Oishiro-sama for a long time, for reasons other than they're afraid of the curse or something, you know what I mean? Like all the old people who believe in Oishiro-sama, right? And I feel like they're kind of fighting a losing battle either way, right? Because so many young people in Hinamizawa don't believe in Oishiro-sama, like at all, right? I don't know.
それこそが彼らの一番恐れることなの。そしてミオさんはその病原体を特定しようとしていたらしい。
I kind of imagine the color changing of Rena's text represents, like, the, I guess the process of her... How do I even say it, I guess? Just, it represents a change within her, I suppose, right? I'm curious what's... You know, if her text keeps changing, which I think it's, like, kind of changed color again, right? This is obviously very different than the very nice light pink we had at the beginning for her, right? It just feels like it's becoming, like, this harsher, kind of dark, like, reddish color. Oh, I guess kind of like blood, right? That's what it makes me think of. It just feels like it represents just, like, Rena, like, falling into all of this, I suppose, right? Going down this rabbit hole, I suppose, right? Maybe also the process of her mind being infected by the crazy shit that makes you go crazy. So, I don't know.
そのミオさんが消されたということは。
For that, she was killed. And this is obviously another issue, because I don't think that's true at all, right? So, if a large part of Rena's theory also hinges on that, well, yeah, I don't think so.
特定できたってことか。
かもしれないね。ミオさんはもういないし、彼女のスクラップ帳にも特定できたとは書かれている。
Do I think Takano believed all of this? Do I think Takano actually believed this theory? Not really. I don't know, right? I don't really think so. Because, like, Rena was saying all that stuff about Tomatake, like, he must have gone through the same thing she did, trying to pull out the maggots from his throat and all that shit, right? But I don't think that's what happened, right? Takano did something to Tomatake, so she believed all this parasite stuff was true. But then what? She just made the scrapbook full of a bunch of nonsense and is handing it out, you know what I mean? Handing it out to all these kids for fun, right? Like, it's interesting how Shion didn't, like, read any of that shit. You know, it's like Shion saw the Takano scrapbooks, and she didn't, like, there was no... was the parasite theory in there back then? Right? Like, I assume it must have been, but, like, Shion just didn't care? You know? I don't know.
でも、消されるに値する理由が他に思いつかないの。
Interesting.
20世紀ももうすぐ終わろうっていう現代だぜ。
I wonder if Rena will be presented with the fact that Takano isn't dead. Well, no, because I guess with Keiichi, Oishi told him, you know, Oishi's a fucking... I assume Oishi was doing his normal thing where he's trying to drive Keiichi insane for some reason. At the end of Chapter 2, when he told him that Takano should have already been dead. Because, like, obviously, if you aren't a fucking dumbass, that just makes you think, like, okay... then she wasn't dead yet, right? You know what there's no ghosts walking around, you know? So I don't know. I don't know what Oishi thinks about all that, right? Will Oishi know? I guess there's no... Did anyone see Takano on the night of Otanagashi again when she should have already been dead? Well, yeah, Rena did, right? I guess I don't know. I don't know what to think about all that, I suppose. It's too much. Too much to think about. Too much to talk about.
いろんな医療機関で検査を受けてきたはずだ。なのに、そういう怪しげな寄生虫が
Very true.
って話はないんだろう。
Good point.
確かに病原体そのものは未だ発見されてい
But I
ない。
guess if they didn't know what they're looking for, maybe.
確かに何かの規制を受けていることの信号だけは確認されているんだって。
I feel like we gotta brush past that, right? Like, I guess I don't know. I don't know what, like, I don't know how blood tests or any kind of screening for this kind of thing would work. I don't know what, like, medical things would it all uncover. It's like a parasite like this, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
なんだって
Hmm.
本当かよ。
When a parasite enters a human body, the body's immune system cells, eosinophils and macrophages, try to kill the parasite. I did not say that first one right at all. I'm getting flashbacks. They secrete an antibody called immunoglobulin E. The most common way of checking if a person is infected by a pathogen is to look at the levels of this secretion. According to Takano's research, people from Hinamizawa have a very high level of IgE in their blood. That's not all. They also have obvious symptoms of being infected by parasites. They don't have any allergies. IgE stimulates mast cells, and they secrete histamine and serotonin as a result. These cause an allergic reaction. Okay, but... I mean, I guess I'm just saying, like, Hinamizawa is a very isolated village with a small population that would probably lead to pretty low genetic diversity. I would kind of just assume that a lot of people in Hinamizawa have these genetic similarities, like this. It's like, you know what I mean? There'd be a lot of, it's a pretty isolated community where a lot of people have lived here, their families have lived here for a long time, and they've all kind of, it's like a genetic pool of Hinamizawa that probably has a lot of similarity there. That would probably lead to, like a lot of people having high levels of IgE and not having allergies and these kind of genetic things like that, right? Just saying, I guess. That allergic reaction isn't pleasant for humans, but it's necessary for the body to kill the pathogen. The parasites don't want to be killed, of course, so they secrete substances that counteract IgE. As a result, IgE stops stimulating the receptors of the mast cells, which stops secreting the chemical compounds. Interesting. Wouldn't that lead to them having, to everyone in Hinamizawa having, a really weak immune system, though, if the parasite is making it so your body can't produce immunoglobulin like that, right? Wouldn't everyone just die from, the common cold? It's like, I don't know, right? I don't know if that is, I don't know if that's, possible, right? Okay. As a result, the antigen-antibody reaction, namely the allergic reaction, doesn't occur. In other words, a human body that was infected by a parasite secretes a high level of IgE, but doesn't display allergic reactions. Or, okay, so you do... So you still secrete immunoglobulin. You still have immunoglobulin, so you don't die instantly, right? But IgE stimulates mast cells that secrete the histamine and serotonin. That's, the allergic reaction that you feel, sure. So the idea is that, it's the parasites. I was saying that they counteract IgE, I don't know about that, right? But it's, as a result, IgE stops stimulating the receptors of the mast cells, which stops secreting the chemical compounds. So it's that you don't have the histamine and the serotonin, but you still have IgE. So you don't just have, no immune system at all and die. Okay, I suppose. I guess, what? We're really, is the purpose of an allergic reaction, does it have anything to do with... Sorry, I'm reading this article at WebMD. Histamines start the process that hustles the allergens out of your body or off your skin. They make you sneeze, tear up, or itch, whatever it takes to get the job done. Okay. Sure. So they're kind of this, all-purpose thing. I guess I was thinking, I don't know if allergic reactions of, the way that you feel when you're allergic is, serve some kind of purpose to the immune system response, or if that is somehow just meant to be your body telling you that, something is wrong. When you have a fever and you feel like shit, It's, kind of your body telling you should rest and lie down because there's something wrong, you know what I mean? To prevent you from, dying, right? We are really getting off into the weeds. We gotta continue. we gotta continue. For your information, a human body that's infected by a parasite doesn't suffer from hay fever. You get hay fever due to your body secreting a large amount of IgE, but it's a mistaken pollen for a parasitic invasion. Because it's mistaken pollen for a parasitic invasion. Right, okay. I mean, and maybe this is just true of parasites in real life. I'm not, a master of any of this, even, remotely at all. It's been years. I don't know, right? It's not that I ever, knew anything but the very basics of this level of like human biology. I feel like, you know, like not really my area of expertise at all. So maybe, I mean, like, is this just true of parasites at large? Like, probably in order to exist without your immune system killing them, you know? Like, do parasites attack the immune system? Yeah, some parasitic worms have, like, immune-suppressing effects. I guess that just makes sense, right? The tendency of many parasitic worms to pacify the host's immune system response allows them to... Yeah, okay. Sure. I mean, that just makes sense. Like, that makes logical sense that parasites would do that. And obviously, it's like, if it destroyed the immune system completely, you just fucking die. The parasite doesn't want that either, because you're its host, right? So, of course, you know. So, I guess this is just how parasites, like, work. You know what I mean? Like, they... And that makes sense to me. Like... Of course, right? A parasite kind of has to be able to do that to exist in your body, probably, right? And maybe that's my whole idea that I was saying earlier about, like, your immune system not being able to deal with, like, big parasites like this. Maybe that's just because the parasites have evolved to not be able to be dealt with, right? Like, yeah, they don't let your immune system deal with them, you know? As a result, a large amount of stimulants, like histamine, will be secreted, but your body can't contain the parasite that it's attempting to kill. That's why your body continues to secrete IgE. As a result, the stimulants keep causing allergic reactions. That's how hay fever works. If you have a parasite in your body, it'll deactivate your IgE and suppress the secretion of stimulants. As a result, you don't have an allergic reaction. In other words, there's no hay fever in Hinamizawa, and you can cure your hay fever by moving here. Interesting. I'd say, that was all interesting to me. I learned something new today. I didn't realize that's how, like, parasites work, right? But no, that actually makes, like, complete sense. I mean, now that I think about it, it seems kind of obvious, right? Like, of course, you know. Of course, that's something they would have to, like, be able to do. Like, they would have to have been evolved to be able to do, because otherwise they would be dead. They wouldn't be able to be parasites. It's, you know, they just died to your immune system, you know? Yeah. I feel like I still don't know. So the IgE still exists, but it just doesn't attack the parasites because the histamines. I don't know enough about this kind of thing, about how, like, the immune system actually functions to, like, be able to say much, I suppose, right? The allergic reaction doesn't occur, but what is the purpose of the allergic reaction exactly, right? I should literally know that, right? I should know that. I don't, though, unfortunately. It's very much beyond the scope of what you know what? Well, it's who cares. My teachers would be very disappointed in me, though. Okay. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if they prove its existence. I don't know about that. Okay, well, let's say, okay. We gotta take a step back here. We gotta actually talk about the fucking story, right? What is my explanation for all of this? If we're saying that hay fever doesn't exist in Hinamizawa, it's the symptoms of everyone being infected by a parasite and all of this, right? Which, like, sure, makes sense to me. If I don't think this parasite theory is true, what the hell am I thinking? What am I saying, right? Like, what does that mean? I don't know. I don't know, right? What do I say? I don't know what to think about that. I don't really have an alternative explanation for that. You know, this kind of feels like the most compelling piece of evidence Rena has presented me with. I guess I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know. Like, this is kind of a piece of evidence that, like, I can't really just, if I accept it as true, right, which, like, I feel like it would be kind of dumb to just say, oh, Rena is making this up, or Takano is lying, and it's just not true. If I accept it as true, which I should, then what does it mean, right? What could an alternative explanation for it be, other than this parasite theory being correct? I don't know, right? It means everyone's infected by a parasite, I guess. What could another explanation for people in Hinamizawa not producing histamines be? I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know. They're the chemtrails. Like, I couldn't tell you. I literally don't know. Very, right? Yeah, somehow it sounds much more believable to me as well.
でしょ？
Yeah.
だから私も最初は信じられなかったし、圭一君に話しても信じてもらえないと思っ
God,
た。
because I could just imagine Rena's process for this so much, right? And she didn't believe it at first, right? But it's just the more and more she confirmed all of these things to herself. I just feel like it's so easy to fall into like that kind of confirmation, like bias almost, you know? That it's when you see something that's well pieced together like this, and it feels like it makes so much sense, it's so easy to forget that, like, we need something empirical more so, like, proving this. We need something more than just all of these, you know, you can come up with all these explanations all you want, I guess, but I just don't know if it's enough. I don't know if it's enough, you know?
で、大事なのはその事実を隠蔽しようと暗躍してるやばい連中がいるって方なんだよな。
Okay, I mean, that's another, like, I feel like we're much further on the path of this whole parasite idea than we are of, like, proving any of that about there being a dangerous organization in the shadows trying to cover this up.
そう。
The only evidence of that we have is Takano's death, which is different than how Rena thinks it is, and this van, which that is totally confirmation bias, her thinking that the people in the van must be here to kill her, or take the scrapbook or whatever. There's no reason to think that, really. And maybe they are, but there's no reason to think it has anything to do with the Rena's explanation for it, you know what I mean? So,
今大事なのはそっち
I
の
don't know. The fanatics who want to revive the sanctity of the god they worship. Reviving the majesty of their god means reviving the power of that god. And the power of their god is the infectious disease. This infectious disease can't spread nationwide, unlike other infectious diseases. So from now on, I'm going to start calling it an endemic disease. That fits better, since it only affects this region. Sure. Anyway, the endemic disease of current-day Hinamizawa is different from the one of old times. It's been through a process of natural selection, and it's harmless now. In other words, it doesn't do any harm to human bodies. And I guess that's just kind of natural. That's what happens with, like diseases, like, in anything that's, like, kind of like a permanent, you know, like anything that's almost like a permanent thing for humans, that kind of, like, an infectious disease that follows us throughout history, you know? It kind of naturally becomes less deadly over time, because if it just killed everyone, it would kill everyone. You know, like, yeah. Like COVID. COVID's a good example, right? How, like, COVID has kind of become, like, weaker over time. Just it's kind of how it works, right? It feels like every variant of it, you know? And, like, it's not like COVID's gone now. People still get COVID, but it's weaker than it was in the initial, like, waves, you know? That harm was once interpreted as a curse. A curse is the power of a god. So a harmless endemic disease means that a god is powerless. It means that the god is powerless. That means the only way to regain the majesty of that god is to revive the curse. In other words, they want to bring back the primitive endemic disease, namely the harmful, strong version of the parasite. How would they possibly do that?
ちょっと待てよ。信者たちは神が実は寄生虫だったなんてことは否定したいんだろう。なのに寄生虫を研究するのかよ。
Right. Yeah, exactly.
矛盾しているよ。だからこの研究は信者たちのトップだけが知る秘密の研究なんだと思う。
Okay.
彼らは表向きは信仰を盛り上げているけど、その裏では信仰の正体について極めて冷静に理解していて、
I see.
神の技を自らの手で復活させようとしている。
なるほどな。おいおい、なんだか
I-
とんでもない話になってる。
Very.
ミオさんのスクラップ帳にはそうとは一言も書かれてないんだけど、
Ooh.
慰霊診療所が
Yeah.
どうして？
ひなみ沢の規模から見て施設が立派すぎるのがその理
Okay.
由。
How are we gonna link this all to him,
そ
huh?
してミオさんはそこに勤めていた。
Indeed.
監督は園崎家にスカウトされてきた細菌学者が正体とか。
Okay.
監督がか。
ミオさんは余計なことを知りすぎたから消されたんだと
I
思う。
I really think it's the other way around, and that Eri is the good guy, and Takano is the one being evil. You know, they're really trying to flip it on me.
なのに
I don't know.
監督
I
が
don't
消さ
know.
れない理由は、監督は信者たちに依頼されている立場だから。
そして太古の有害な風土病を研究してるってのか。あの監督が。
ごめん。監督は無関係かもしれないね。今のは私の思い
Well,
つき。
I don't know. I don't think he's totally irrelevant, and I don't think he's evil. I don't know what he knows or anything, I guess.
研究は間違いなくどこかで誰かにさせている。そしてその研究には5年かかり、ついに完成を見た。
The first case was the dismemberment murder by the damn construction workers. Their quarrel had turned into a lynching. They might have had the primitive the primitive infectious disease, and the symptoms, the aggression and delirium, might have kicked in. The victim of the second years were Sadako's parents. I didn't really have an explanation for the first murder, right? I mean, we've gone over all the murders so many times. I just think it's like something like that, I guess, right? That someone was affected by the crazy shit that makes you go crazy. I kind of assume, well, I mean, like, I kind of assume it was the guy who got murdered, right? Because there was 5 people who killed him. So it's like him going crazy and acting insane and whatever, right? So they killed him, and then they're like, oh, we gotta cover all this up. Like, that makes sense to me, right? Sure, right? Especially because he had that relation to Oishi. And my whole theory about Oishi is the idea that being with Oishi invokes this stress response within you that makes the crazy shit that makes you go crazy affect you. So it's like, I don't know if that really makes any sense, but it does to me. It totally does, because it feels like it follows Oishi, you know, so much. The victims of the second year were Sadako's parents. There were no witnesses, so the whole event is veiled in mystery. But there's a theory that someone might have pushed them over the cliff, since the fence of the observation deck that they fell from was quite sturdy. What if one of them was infected by the primitive parasite? He or she might have become violent and pushed the other over the cliff. Sure, just like it could have been one of her parents, I guess, right? I mean, I guess it could have been Sadako or Satoshi, too, right? They were both there, right? Like, just say it, as horrible, as awful as that would be, I suppose, right? If we're gonna say that, probably just like the other ones, that somehow this murder was involving the crazy shit that makes you go crazy, sure, maybe so, right? It should just be awful if it was Sadako or Satoshi that did it, but I guess it could have been one of them, too, I don't know, right? I don't know. The Shinto priest died from a disease, and his wife drowned himself in the 3rd year. He might have died of shock because of a hypersensitive reaction to the infection. I have no idea. I don't know about that one at all. His wife might have gone crazy and committed suicide when one of the symptoms, delirium, kicked in. In the 4th year, Satoshi Hojo's aunt was beaten to death, probably by Satoshi himself. Everybody who knew Satoshi-kun remembers how he changed at the time. He showed signs of being both aggressive and delirious. In the 5th year, for the first time in 5 years, the victim experienced the maggot disease described in the old scroll of the Furude Shrine. The reason behind that is unclear, but the stronger primitive parasite could have given its victim a delusion of maggots. Yeah. This means that they finally managed to duplicate the curse of Oishiro-sama after 5 years of research. But it's Takano who did that, so what does that mean? Toмотake-san is the victim of the 5th year. He died in an extremely abnormal way, and I'm the only one who understands his death, because I experienced the same thing. He kept clawing at his throat to get rid of the maggots, and died as a result. With all that explained, I finally understand the maggot disease I experienced in Ibaraki. It's like you want to so badly, but I don't think you do. I don't think this is true. I really don't. I left Hinamizawa, and it made the parasite in me uncomfortable. As a result, it tried to resist, even though it wasn't very strong, and it tried to make me homesick. But with my parents' divorce, I grew mentally unbalanced, and I completely lost the power to resist for a period of time. The parasite was weak and harmless, but my mental instability allowed it to worsen my symptoms dramatically. As a result, I went crazy and became violent. The delusion of Oishiro-sama appearing to me in the bathroom is probably the terminal phase of my delirium. Interesting that she's so, interesting. I created the supernatural existence, Oishiro-sama, and that I was instilled with when I was little. But then I persuaded myself to go back to Hinamizawa, based on that delusion. It's interesting that she's coming up with this whole explanation for it to have actually just been a delusion, you know? Some of the transcendents of Onigashi must have had the same kind of experience. They must have passed their experiences down as the acts of a god. I remember I once saw on TV that the indigenous people in South America used some kind of natural drug in order to have a mystical experience. Ayahuasca, right? And that they called it a ritual to communicate with their gods. Hmm.
多分それが最終目的だと思う。でも人知れずにそれをやることはないと思うの。宗教にはセレモニーが必要だから。
Sure, like the old Ratanagashi.
彼らが望むものを生み出せて、それをばらまく日が訪れたなら、彼らは多分それをお社様の復活の人でも称して宗教的なデモンストレーションをすると思うの。
Like, I just get this image in my head of all these people with, like, creepy, like, robes on in a cult circle, you know, a bunch of candles lighting it up, you know? They're sacrificing Rena in a circle. Oh, God.
特別な儀式とか、とにかく、お社様の復活を祝い、知らしめるような盛大な。
Interesting. It's interesting that, like, none of this, Also, like, there's the whole thing in Takeru's notes about, like, Rika being that reincarnation of Yoshiro-sama. Because of, like, being the 8th daughter and all of that, right? Like, oh, Yashiro and all that stuff, right? And Rena doesn't know anything about that. Was that in her notes, right? Like, I don't know, right? It's probably. Yeah. It sure would be. It's indeed. Oh no. Rena's gonna go crazy. I'm so worried, right? Like, this is such crazy, like, it's just, oh no. This would drive anyone insane. You know, like, very, very much so, right? But Rena doesn't trust anyone, right? Oh, I definitely not.
圭一君、それを大石さんに私が打ち明けたら、私がスクラップ帳を持っていることを告白するのと同じなんじゃないかな。それってまずいのか？大石さんの接触は
The face of the devil
ミオさんが殺された後だった。敵はミオさんを殺した時点でスクラップ帳の紛失とその数日前に私が図書館で出会っていることを知っている。
Okay. How do they know that? Oh, okay. By saying that Oishi knows that, so therefore, okay, yeah. Sure. Okay, you know what, Rena, I'm glad you're suspicious of him, at least. But I mean, it's not like this is good, though. I don't know. Oh, God.
自分は味方だと言ってくるけど、彼だってその園崎家の手先かもしれない。
警察を疑い出したらおしまいだぞ。
圭一君、4年目の撲殺事件を知ってるよね。さとこちゃんのおばさんが殺された。
Right, yeah.
犯人はサトシ君以外に考えられないんだけど。
Well, and I mean, the police weren't any help to Satoshi back then.
これをどう思う？
Well, no, because I think that was the Sonozakis, right? Like, I think that random drug addict, all that was the Sonozakis covering it up, you know?
3年目の神主さんの病死の検視とか、2年目の北条夫妻の事故現場の見聞とか。
Okay.
警察がもしも彼らの片棒を担いでいるなら、数々の完全犯罪が可能になる。
We're talking about perfect crimes again.
ひなみ沢御三家
No.
ダム戦争時から今日に至るまでもずっと警察への圧力を維持してるんだよ。それに沖宮の町のいろんなところに一族が進出して実権を握っているというのはみーちゃんから聞かされたことがあるんじゃない？
Sure, yeah.
確かに。それはミオンの口からだけじゃない。いろんなやつの口から聞かされた。ミオンの園崎家が。
そういうこと。警察はこの土地では必ずしも信用できない。
Thank you. That's, you know what, Rena, if anything you said is true this whole time, that is absolutely true. So, yeah. Ooh. Well, What? Oh, what will Rena say? I actually don't know. Okay. Or Rika-chan.
狂信的な勢力が御三家や一番の有力者である園崎家を自由に動かせる中枢部に根付いているのは間違いない。
Interesting.
狂信的な勢力が根付いたのか、御三家の中枢が狂信的なのかは分かりかねるけどね。
関係あるかどうかわからない以上、用心に越したことはないってわけだな。
みーちゃんたちのことを疑うわけじゃないよ。普段のみーちゃんは頼もしいし、私も他の心配事なら打ち明けて助力を求めることもあると思う。
I wish he would. Rena, I wish he would trust her.
ちょっと話の次元が違う。
Because obviously, like, this is where it's like, I can't agree with Rena even slightly at all in any way, right? There's no way Mion has anything to do with any of this at all, even if this was true, you know? Like, no, just no. Yeah, sadly, right? Sadly. Maybe we can trust Shion. Maybe Shion will show up and save the day, huh?
もし無関係だったとしても、それならばやはり耳に入れることで危険に巻き込むことにもなるんじゃないかな。
Yeah, now I'm just thinking about how do you think Shion would react if Rena told her this whole theory? You know, back in if Rena right now could talk to Shion in chapter 5, after Shion had like her whole theory about everything about the Sonozaki's doing it and all of this, right? And then Rena shows up and she starts yelling about this parasite and the fanatics and the day of Oishiro-sama and all of this, you know? How would Shion react to all of that? You know, what would she... I for one, I assume she'd just kill Rena instantly, but... Other than that, how would she, you know, what would she think? I don't know. And she definitely is, you know? Of course, and yeah, of course Keiichi wants to. God. But you can't betray Rena's trust, you know, when you're the only person that she trusts right now, you know? Okay, but how do we confirm? How do we confirm that it's not, that she isn't one of them, you know? Great, thanks for being an optimist, Rena. I mean, I guess it's true with her whole theory, if it was correct, you know? Yeah. She sure did, huh? Oh, man, interesting. Very. Thank God, right? It just shows how trusting Keiichi is, how much he actually lives up to all that stuff he said in that amazing scene at the dam site, you know? Yeah, the fact that he just trusts her like this, and that he, you know, yeah, that he is on her side, you know? Yeah. There we go. But again, I feel like there's kind of a catch here, you know what I mean? Like this whole idea. It feels like this is kind of a subtle, soft counter in a way to all the stuff Keiichi was saying, because there's times where you can't just be on your friend's side, where you have to do something more. You know what I mean? Like, and this Keiichi, this might be that situation. I don't know, right? Like, yeah. Because again, it's like, as much as I loved that scene from a couple episodes ago, it's not like that wasn't the end of the story. You know what I mean? There's more to it than just all of that. You know, it's very idealistic. All of Keiichi's ideas there, right? As much as I loved it, right? I wish it was all like that, and it was that true, you know? And it can be, in a sense. I don't know, it's more complicated than that. And I think that's kind of what we're being presented with through all of this, you know? Okay, can I act normal? I suppose. She really is. Very true. So are you, though, Rena. It's only a bit? Oh god, yeah. Yeah. Well, I wonder, right? We have a countdown to Rika's death going down. How many days does she have left? Right? Not very many, right? Like, we are almost there, and I'm wondering if that is going to coincide with all of this for Rena, you know?
村を挙げて行うものだもの。綿流し以上のイベントは。
Yeah, and with Tanagashi already passed, right? Yeah. But it's not going to be that long, certainly, you know.
他に綿流し以上のイベントが思いつ
What
かない。
would, I mean, is there any other event or anything I can think of? Like, no, not at all. I don't know. Something's gonna happen, right? I just don't know what. I think we have a year, at least. But I also feel like we don't, because of how they killed Mio-san. I might not know, but there might be a bigger religious event than Watanagashi. It might not be long until that day. On the day of Oishiro-sama's revival, they're going to spread a dangerous parasite, and that day might just be around the corner. That might just be the day Rika dies, you know? Like,
Rena.
ooh.
まだ電話してるのか? そろそろ終わりにしなさい.
My father stuck his head out from the living room, telling me I need to hang up soon. God, can I speak? I've thought about telling him so many times. It's natural to think that your parents will be on your side no matter what, but that's gotta be hard to think with, like, your parental trauma, right? Like, but I know just how weak he can get, so I couldn't tell him. I don't think he'd believe me anyway. Even if I told him, he'd just tell me to call the police. That is a sad thing to think, that it's like, you know, because then, like, what does she think about herself? That she, you know... Like, thinking that reacting in some way to this would be, like, being weak, you know? Like, I don't know. It's better that I don't tell him. They might get close to my father to get me. If he didn't know anything about anything, including the scrapbooks, there'd be nothing to squeeze out of him to begin with. I suppose...
ごめんね、ケイチ君。今夜はもう遅いから。
Back to
これで
Keiichi.
切るね。また明日学校で。
おう、また明日
用心してね。ケイチ君ももう部外者じゃないんだから。
おう、せいぜい気をつけるぜ。
I remembered the suspicious men in the white van and felt a chill run through my spine. They looked like villagers, but they weren't. They had the village accent, but they were just pretending. The more I thought about it, the more suspicious they became. It let me know that Rena and I aren't safe. If Rena is right, they're just suspicious of her, and they're not sure if she has the scrapbooks or not. But it's still creepy. Rena had probably experienced the same creepiness I felt when I saw the van several times up until now. She must sense the danger more than I do. However, the fact that they weren't attacking, that they were merely observing us, was disturbing. If they attacked her, they could have done something, like going to the police. But all they're doing is just watching her from a distance. She can't do anything about it. She can't talk to anybody about it. She probably just wants to stay in her house all day. But if she acted different, they might take it as proof that she has the scrapbooks. We have to think about how to fight against them, without making it obvious. God, this is so, like, horrifying. Like, this is just such, like, paranoia fuel and crazy... like... I told myself there was no going back, and I put the phone down. God, is that only halfway through the subchapter? Because Jesus Christ, there's an hour and a half. I said there's a lot of me rambling in there, but... Oh, God. Oh, okay. What is up, Rena? The next day, Rena came to school, acting normal like she said she would. She talked with Mion as cheerfully as she always did, and it made me wonder if the story she told me last night was a complete fabrication. That's because the story was too ridiculously crazy to believe. Yeah, probably when you wake up in the morning, it feels so, you know, yeah. The village has a very weird and rare endemic disease, and there were religious fanatics who want to use the disease to revive their weird cult. And they've been researching the pathogen of the endemic disease so they can spread it throughout the village. I was deeply influenced by Rena last night, and I believed everything she said. But thinking about it with a cool mind under the bright sunlight, it sounds too crazy to be true. Yeah. The story Rena told me is based on Takano-san's crazy hand-me-down ideas. It's based entirely on her theories, which, though very feasible, have no evidence whatsoever. Exactly, right? That's kind of how I feel about it, you know? Like, yeah. The fact that Takano-san was murdered lends credit to the story. I'll give you that, but... I looked at Mion. She was fooling around with Rena. It's hard to believe that she's involved with some crazy conspiracy. He was not.
悪い。ごめん、聞いてなかった。
まだ寝ぼけたまんまなのかな?
It literally.
約束だとおつむもちゃんと働かないよ。
Mion made fun of me for reacting too slowly. It's almost impossible not to trust this bubbly, cheerful girl. I trust Mion. I trust my friends, as you should. I know she'd never have a hand in a crazy conspiracy like that. If she knew about it, she wouldn't be able to act this cheerfully. Rena told me not to tell Mion because she might be one of them. But it might be worth telling her without letting Rena know. Oh, but then how would Rena, Rena, that would be such a betrayal of the tenuous trust that you have with her right now, like, I don't know. We're definitely gonna, like, run into that problem. Either Rena is gonna become convinced that Mion is part of it somehow, or Keiichi's gonna tell her and Rena's gonna find out, and, like, I don't know, right? It's all about the trust. That's what really matters right now, And it's gonna be broken somehow, or tested somehow. Of course, there is at least a 1% chance that the conspiracy is true and that Mion is one of them. If so, I'd be doomed. But if I had to choose between believing the crazy conspiracy theory and trusting my friends, my answer would be obvious. Right, as it should be. I knew that my friend, Mion, isn't a part of any conspiracy. She'd never be involved with something like that. Even if the conspiracy exists, I'm sure Mion will be on our side. So, whether or not it's true, it must be worth telling Mion about it. Oh, really? That worries me, though. That really does worry me. Oh, God. Oh, no. How do you even explain it to her, though, Keiichi? Keiichi, you're gonna do such a bad job. He's gonna explain it terribly, right? Like, he's gonna, like, mumble about parasites and cultists and Ueshiro-sama, and Mion's gonna, like, call an ambulance. like...
まさかカツアゲとかそういうのじゃないよね。
お前な、体育倉庫の裏に呼ばれたら真っ先にそう思うのかよ。
じゃあラブレターとか
Maybe. You wish, probably.
でもそういうのは下駄箱が定番じゃない
都会じゃそうでもないぞ。直接渡す白兵戦も少なくない。
Keiichi, don't get her hopes up. Come on.
え
Oh, God.
じゃあ
It's Keiichi.
なわけねえ。
Jesus. This is what got you in a, like, come on.
それよりかなり真面目な話がある。
Mion really is gonna kill everyone if you aren't careful.
茶化しは一切なしで聞いてくれ。
何よ。どうしたの？
お社様信仰を復活させようとしている。
Oh man. Oh God, Keiichi. I don't know if this is a good start. I'm thinking about how Mion reacted to him telling her about all the stuff. When he went to her in chapter 3 and he asked her to, like, change the curse to target Tepe and blah 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 blah. How she reacted to that. It's like, I think I don't know. How's she gonna react to this?
は？何？ケイちゃん。何の話？
Literally, right? This, of course, was just my way of getting a feel for the situation. I wanted to see how she was going to react by getting straight to the point. But Mion really did look puzzled. People wouldn't normally react like this if someone pointed out their secrets out of the blue. They always panic, if only just a little. Yeah, like Keiichi every time, like, in chapter 2, anytime Keiichi would tell him that they, about the storehouse going inside, right, the Saiguden, and Keiichi would just start mumbling and stuttering and fall to his knees. like Keiichi would know. Either Mion was a brilliant actress, or she really didn't have anything to do with the idea of reviving Ueshiro-sama. I decided to tell her everything.
お前の家の園崎家ってひなみ沢を含めものすごい影響力を持ってるわけだけどさ、お社様信仰を復興するため何か暗躍してるってことはあるか？
復興？なんで？
いや、だからさ、今のお社様信仰って大昔の時代に比べたらだいぶ信仰心が薄くなってるだろ。
I just feel like Mion has such a different perspective of all of this because of how, like, the way that she knows about how the Senozaki family and all of that actually works. I just don't know if she's gonna, like... Oh, I don't know. Because they don't care about Ueshiro-sama. You know what I mean? Like, they just use Ueshiro-sama as, like, a tool. right? Like...
大昔の鬼ヶ淵村のレベルまで引き戻したいと思っている。いわゆる原理主義者的な連中が暗躍をしてるんじゃないかって。
But I guess that kind of makes sense, right? The Sonozakis use Ueshiro-sama as this tool of power for themselves, so it's like they would want people to really believe in Ueshiro-sama so that they can do that. But, like... This just sounds crazy, doesn't it?
はい？ちょっと。何の話なの？
It's literally, right? Like, God, Keiichi,
話かわからない。
you're gonna do such a bad job explaining this.
わかるわけないよ。何その全米第1位みたいな。
It's literally, right? Like, what the hell are you saying? Mion's reaction was very natural. It seemed impossible that she was pretending, or she didn't know anything about it. But regardless, I continued.
だからそういう連中がこの村にいるらしいんだよ。ミオンは知らないか？
お社様信仰を鬼ヶ淵村の時代のレベルに？そんなことして何かいいことあるの？
Right?
いや、そりゃ信仰の厚い狂信的な連中にとってはとても重要な意味が。
だってケイちゃん、
Hmm.
大昔の厳しい戒律の頃に逆戻りって
Well,
誰も喜ばないよ。
people who would like be in advantaged positions of power, I suppose, is the idea,
今のこ
right?
の現代、村から出るななんて言われたら
Mhm,
生活なんかやってられないって。
例えばほら、リカちゃんってなんでもお社様の生まれ変わりとか言って
Right.
ちやほやされてるらしいだろ。そういった取り巻きの老人たちの
And what?
きっと狂信
Right?
的な一派が存在してる。
So, uh-huh.
リカちゃんの取り巻きっていうと君吉のおじいちゃんとか
He's one of them, I suppose.
まあ確かに信仰心は熱い方だと思うけど、狂信
God,
的
Mion,
ってのはどうかと思う
Mion is
ね。
actually just the voice of reason
いや
right now,
だから
isn't
い
she?
るんだよ。
Like,
本来のお社様信仰を再び復
it's,
活
but
さ
you
せよう
don't,
と
you
している
no,
やつ
you
だ
don't actually know that though. You don't actually know that though. You really don't. You really don't. You really don't. Like, please.
はいはい、話が進まないからこの場は信じるよ。それで
Okay, okay.
で、そいつらはお社様の正体がこの土地独特の風土病にあることを突き止め、その病原体を研究しているらしいんだ。
どこで？
It's like that has to sound so insane. Like he just starts talking about this pathogen and the disease. Like,
というか
I.
風土病って何？
Oh yeah, and Mion doesn't know
病
anything.
原体って何よ？
She has to know what a pathogen is. Oh god. I was getting confused. I didn't know what I was talking about myself anymore. Does Keiichi know what a pathogen is either? I was deeply influenced by Rena last night and believed everything she said. But having said it all out loud, I started realizing how impossible the story sounded.
どうしたの？ミオさんに妙なことでも吹き込まれたわ
Oh
け？
no.
知ってるのか？
Oh god. Wait, yeah. How is he gonna
あの人オカルトマニアだから。
react to
い
that?
つもと
Uh-huh.
んでもない空想話をでっち上げてる。たまに真に受ける人がいるとかなりヘビーに吹き込むって有名なんだ。
Right, right.
私も昔話を聞かせてもらったことがあったけど、
それって本当か？
ケイちゃんもどこかで耳にしてるだろうけど、この村は大昔はちょっと特殊な文化があった。
Indeed.
それは少し刺激の強い要素のある文化でね。厳しい戒律と厳しい刑罰、残酷な風習は割とオカルトマニアの間では知られてるらしい。ミオさんもそんなマニアの中の一人。
Interesting.
じゃあこの村が怪しげな寄生虫に支配されて
Like,
いる
how
とい
does
う
that come
話。
across to Mion? The weird parasite that controls the village. Like, what? Yeah, like,
寄生虫？それ
oh
ミオさんの新
god.
作？
I guess, I suppose. I don't know. We're just being presented with such
ミ
conflicting,
オさん
like,
はオカルトマニアな
oh
の。
man.
鬼ヶ淵村の奇怪な伝説などを研究してあれやこれやの仮説や推理、妄想を
Yeah,
楽しん
right?
でるわけ。
And that's really all it is. It's just a hypothesis with, like,
だからその
ways you could
寄生虫
explain
に
all
村
these
が支
things,
配
I
され
guess,
て
you
る
know.
って説以外にもいろいろ創作してる。私がずいぶん前に聞いたのは
UFOs.
説だったよ。
Like, oh god.
これが結構辻褄があってて面白いの。
It's literally just like this
太
one,
古の
right?
昔
Uh-huh.
に鬼ヶ淵村に UFO が墜落してそこから出てきた異星人と村人で戦いが起こって
Now I
という
feel
感じから
silly.
始まる B 級
Oh,
SF
God.
ホラーだった。
I feel so silly now.
サトコが聞かされたってのは地底人説だったかな。
Uh-huh. Creatures from the bottom of the
地
ocean,
殻
of
変動
course.
によって地底王国と鬼ヶ淵村の間に接点ができてしまって、
Mhm.
それで
No, and you could totally come up with like explanations behind all of that. The same way that there's all of the stuff that it feels like the parasite theory explains. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Sure, why not? Right? Why not?
そうそう、地底王国のお姫様と村の
Right,
若者が
right.
恋をして、
Mhm,
互いに仲直りをしたっていう SF ロミオとジュリエットだった。
Because frankly, I mean, I guess if we're thinking about it in like a real world way, it's kind of the job of the person presenting this theory to actually present the evidence of why it's true, other than just like circumstantially it explains these things, you know? Which frankly, in like games and stuff, and like mystery games, I feel like a lot of the time, the explanation you're given just kind of is one that just kind of circumstantially fits with all this stuff, you know what I mean? So in this case, it feels like we're kind of making fun of that idea, I suppose, you know?
で最新作がどうやらケイちゃんの聞かされた寄生虫説って
Oh
わけだ
god,
よ
but
ね。
but like, what's gonna happen? I'm so worried, because Rena really believes it, you know what I mean? Rena wants to believe it.
いやいや、 つかそれらを全部まとめて本にしてほしいよ。
I'm worried. I'm worried. I'm worried. Mion began laughing so hard that she had to hold her stomach. Obviously, this isn't gonna, like, change Keiichi's mind completely, because there's still the van following Rena. There's still, you know, there's all this stuff, you know. But I don't know. Mion began laughing so hard that she had to hold her stomach. As I looked at her laughing like that, I realized I fell for something that ridiculous. At that point, it was obvious. I had been completely taken in.
すまんミオ。俺がこれから聞くことに答えてくれ。
Okay.
まず、お社様信仰を復活させようとする連中は実在する。
I don't think so.
しないよ。
Yeah.
というかむしろ逆。ひなみ沢は外部に対してどんどん開いていって栄えさせていこうということで、
Sure, that
御
makes
三家はすでに意見を統一してい
a
る。
whole lot more sense,
これ
yeah.
はまだ内緒なんだけど、21世紀までをめどにね、
Ooh,
新しい高速
that
道
would
路
be
がここいらを通るという計画がある
very nice.
園崎家は現在水面下でその誘致をしててね、うまくいけばここいらは一気に栄えることになる。バッチャはそれによって山林の地価が一気に高騰して大儲けできると踏んでるみたいだよ。
Of course, of course.
まあ21世紀の仕事だから、それは私が引き継ぐ大仕事になりそうだけどね。
Nice.
じゃあ、外部の人間を意味嫌う連中なんてのは
Well,
存在しない？
I'm sure there are, just like anywhere,
だ
probably.
からそんなの
But
存在しないって。
I don't know, I don't know.
ただでさえ不便な村をさらに不便にしてどうするんだ
It's
か。
very true.
現に村は今別荘地として売り出しを開始してる。ケイちゃんの家はまさにその第1号じゃない。
Oh, really?
村人はみんな歓迎してくれたでしょ。
True,
若
true.
者の流出を食い止めるため、御三家もいろいろと考えてるんだから。
Mhm. Might be a losing battle, though. I wonder. There's nothing vague about what Mion had said. Her story makes a lot more sense than talking to San's delusional theories. Because that's kind of how it is, you know, like in the United States. There's so many just tiny, dead cities. I mean, not even cities, just little, like, towns, villages, basically, all over the place, you know, that, like, their population has just dwindled just more and more over the years. It feels so... I feel like that happens a lot more often than a place, like, reviving and getting a big, like, population boom or anything, you know. Her story makes a lot more sense than talking to San's delusional theories. And so, Mion's words woke me up from that
じ
delusion.
ゃあ、あれはどうだよ。寄生虫の感染の証拠を
Okay,
示す
Keiichi,
血液中の
that's-
なんとかとかいう数値が
come on.
ひなみ沢の住民だけ異常に高いみたいな話。
That is not... You gotta explain it more than that. Like, come on.
そうなの？というか、ミオさんは
I-
そんなのどうやって調べ
Good
たわけ？
question. I guess being a nurse, I
だ
don't
って
know. Yeah.
高野さんは看護師だろ。調べる気になれば。
But I guess then you could say there's like a sampling issue, sampling bias going on there, you know?
そんな怪しげな調査のために誰が血液採取なんかに協力するの？
I suppose, but you would think Takano would account for that herself, right? She's not dumb, you know?
それに仮に採血をしたってどこでどう調べたわけ？
But then what, she just made it up for fun? Like, I don't think
ミ
so.
オさんは
Like,
たった一
maybe.
人で一体何人の血を調べられたっていう？
Unless her goal really is to just drive people crazy with her notes full of lies, right? Like, maybe, I guess, right? Like, why, though? I don't know. Mion was right. I couldn't believe I thought Takano-san could do all that just because she was a nurse. It struck me hard to believe that she got that many blood samples and did a high-level examination like that without any help. When I thought about it rationally, I shouldn't have believed such a ridiculous story so easily. I don't know. I mean, sure.
寄生虫の寄生の証拠として花粉症にかからないって聞いたぞ。
Hmm.
花粉症って都会の病気じゃないの。
I don't know anything about hay
あれ
fever,
は確
so I don't
か
know. I don't
排
know.
気ガスと関係があるんでし
I'm
ょ？
sure.
ここはひなみ沢だよ、ケイちゃん。
Oh no, is that true? It's like... God, where's my mouse? There it is. Hay fever. Hay fever symptoms more severe in urban areas. People living in urban areas report significantly worse hay fever symptoms than those in rural areas. That's from 2023. Like, sure, I guess. I don't know anything about hay fever, so I couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you. Yeah, but I guess that seems true. I suppose. Like, I don't know. I didn't know that.
多
So
分沖宮の人にだって
I can
花粉
point
症
that
なん
out.
てそうそういないと思うけど。
like, I don't know.
じゃああれは園崎本家当主直属の暗殺部隊がい
Right.
て、
The Death
昔
Squad.
大臣の孫の誘拐とかをやったんだろう。
Oh god, don't bring that up. The Death Squad. The Death
そ
Squad.
んなのがいたらかっこいい
It
ね。
literally, right? That'd be we could send it on a Wishi, right? It'd be awesome. It'd be great. If we could send a Death Squad after a Wishi. Oh, that would fix all our problems, wouldn't it? Even I was sounding ridiculous. But I believed all of it last night. I believed it because Rena looked very serious. Yeah, you can understand so much how Rena believes it all, you know?
高津戸のあたりで突然発見されたのは事実。だけれど、あれは私たちじゃない。私たちじゃ
I
ない
believe
け
it,
ど、
yeah,
そ
certainly.
れを
Just like
私
the
た
curse,
ち
just
は
like the
自分
curse,
た
right?
ちが犯したように振る
Yeah,
舞ってた。
yeah.
わかりにくいぞ。説明してくれ。
うん。ダム戦争の当時、鬼ヶ淵死守同盟は相当に物騒な抵抗運動をしていたのは事実。
Okay.
脅迫めいたこともやってのけた。でもね、あの当時それを利用するやらしい連中もいたらしいの。
Right.
鬼ヶ淵死守同盟の名を語って金品を要求したりするエセ同盟って連中。
The Onigashiki Guardians were a very aggressive force at the time. There's a high possibility that some people thought they could use the name to extort money.
その中に大臣の孫の誘拐もあったの。おそらく誘拐犯たちは警察の捜査のか乱を狙って死守同盟のふりをして身代金を要求したんだと思う。正直あの事件は
Well, they...
同盟にとっても驚きだったよ。
I thought the whole thing was that they didn't do it for a ransom, though, right? I don't know.
よく大臣の孫を誘拐できたもんだって話題になったね。犯人たちに会えたら表彰してやろうなんて盛り上がったっけ。
ちょっと待て。じゃあ大臣の孫の誘拐は鬼ヶ淵死守同盟
Right.
は
Just like all the
何も
murders
関係ない
every
の
year.
かよ。
It's the same thing with all the murders, right? The Sonozaki family, like, taking credit for them, basically. Yeah.
全くない。
Mion said it firmly. It was a simple and clear answer, which left no room for suspicion. And thinking about it, it's nothing surprising. Kidnapping the grandson of a minister and negotiating with him in person is a huge deal. The Onigashiki Guardians were a very aggressive group, but this operation wasn't so easy that it could be carried out by any of the normal residents of Hinamizawa. This recording is getting so long, let me make sure I have recording space. Oh yeah, we're fine, okay. The Onigashiki Guardians were a very aggressive group, but this operation wasn't so easy that it could be carried out by any of the normal residents of Hinamizawa. It was obviously the work of professional criminals, without a doubt.
ただね、さっきも少し言いかけたけど、園崎本家はね、この誘拐事件を自分たちが黒幕であるかのように振る舞っていた。
振る舞ったってのはどういうことだ。
これは園崎本家の秘密の家訓なの。ケイちゃんにはこっそり話すけど、
Okay.
話したことは内緒だ。園崎本家ではね、自分たちに都合がいい何かの事件が起こった時、あたかもそれが自分たちの差し金であるように振る舞うブラフの伝統があるの。
Of course.
ブラフってはったり。
自分たちに利することがあったなら、それは事件でなくてもいい。お天気でもいいし、宝くじの当
The
選番号で
weather,
もいい。
lottery numbers, I
あたか
see,
も
I see.
園崎本家が望んだから、
yeah.
そのような結果になったかのよ
To
うに
maintain that air of like, yeah, power
So
and all of that. Right.
なんだかものすごい黒幕ってイメージになるでしょ。
Very.
つまりはそういうこと。
It's worked on a Wishi.
これは園崎本家の当主だけに代々公伝で伝承される秘密のイメージ戦略なの。自分たちを本来よりもより強大に見せようとするイメージ戦略。
Yeah, it's nice to finally have that out in the
ダム
open.
戦争時
You know,
に
like
建設
Jesus.
省を占拠するって作戦があったんだろ。あれは
Hmm.
しかもそのために武器やら訓練やら。
I don't know about that. Yeah.
それも全く
Oh,
同
they
じ
just
だ
they
よ
just
ケイち
said
ゃん
that, right? That was just
そんなバカな
public
作戦
perception
本当にやる
purposes.
わけ
Yeah.
ないじゃん。
Mm-hmm.
最大の目的はあいつらがやりかねない、
okay, okay.
なんて恐ろしい奴らだっていうプレッシャーと幻
No,
想を
yeah,
与え
makes
るの
sense.
が
Makes complete
最
sense.
大の
Yeah.
目的だったんだよ。つまりこれもまたイメージ戦略ってわけ。
They obtained weapons and went through training just so they could exact pressure. They had no intention of actually carrying out the plan. The Sonozaki family was just bluffing. That made sense. Of course it did. It's impossible to attack the Ministry of Construction. Even if they did, it wouldn't solve the problem. All I had to do was use common sense. Even if they did, they would have been crushed within seconds by a huge number of policemen. Why didn't I think of that?
じゃあ武器とか訓練
Yeah,
とかっ
when
てのは。
you went to New Mexico to undergo weapons training, Mion, what about that? Come on, what's your what's your explanation for that one?
武器に関しては
What do you mean no
ノー
comment?
コメントでいいよね。訓練もやったよ。はったりになるようちゃんとしっかりね。
I see, I see.
葛西さんをリーダーにお父さんとこの若い衆たちを引き連れてテキサスの砂漠でトレーナーさんと戦争ごっこをやった後
I
は
guess.
サンフランシスコでのんびり観光してた。
Sounds fun, I suppose. Did Shion get to go? Probably not.
じゃあ
Was Shion a bit in St.
Ja.
Lucia's then? I don't know. I couldn't think of anything else. It was obvious now. No, Rena and I both, were completely fooled by the scrapbooks of Takano-san's delusion. Rena was so serious about it, so I believed her. But if you examined it closely, there are so many inconsistencies. God, I am terrified, though, if they try and confront Rena about this, right? I don't think she is going to be nearly as open to not believing this as Keiichi is, right? So, oh, I don't know. That really worries me. I couldn't believe Rena took a delusion like that so seriously. I knew the reason why, though. She was still in a state of shock after being caught with the corpses that day. She was mentally unstable, sure. Yeah, she wants to believe it, you know? When she came across this tall tale, and she believed it. Rena is a smart girl. She wouldn't have taken it seriously if she was stable. Plus, another thing happened to wake me up from the delusion. The white van I saw yesterday came to school during the lunch break. The 4 men in work uniforms I saw were there too. Oh no. Yeah, right? What is the explanation for that, huh? I said thank you to Mion and followed them. Oh, Jesus. The man who talked to me yesterday knocked on the door of the teacher's office. Okanogi Gardener. Should I write that down? I guess, right? I'll just write, that sounds like a name, right? Okonogi. Why not? Sure. I assume it's just a fake name they've come up with, but just in case. You never know. What are we doing here? They're like, oh, we need to kidnap someone from the class real quick? Or... Oh, God. Oh, God. Rena's gonna lose her mind. I don't know. Okay. Okay. Sure. Go ahead. The man was talking to Chi-sensei with a big smile.
どうしたのかね、前原君。あ、校長先生。今の男の人は誰ですか?
The principal pointed his finger at the window. When I looked out, I heard the noise of an engine starting. The noise was coming from the engine of a motorized lawnmower. I saw young men in work uniforms taking another lawnmower, some brooms, and a ladder out of the van.
園芸業者さんである。だいぶ垣根や樹木が手入れされてなかったからの。
Oh, God.
This
is the one thing we can't explain, is what the hell are these guys? You know, like... The man noticed the principal, took off his hat, and bowed. Each worker took one of the tools and walked towards the fence where the grass was growing. The engine of the lawnmower was very loud, and the kids who were playing in the schoolyard looked at it curiously. So are they going to be out there all day? So, when Rena has to leave and walk home, she'll have to walk past them, and they'll, you know. It was Chi-sensei. She handed an envelope with the documents in it to the principal. It said Okanogi Gardeners in green on the envelope. Interesting. Okay.
千恵先生、造園屋さんは昨日。
ええ、昨日の夕方に一度下見に来てもらいました。
Okay, okay. Ooh, and then Rena wasn't here, right? She didn't go to school that day. They showed up right when they would have been getting out of school, probably, right? I remember when I first came here, Chi-sensei started talking about when she got lost, and they left together. There was never anything suspicious to begin with. I thought they were suspicious yesterday, because of what Rena had told me. At first, I thought it wasn't unusual to see a white van. But then, right after I heard her creepy story, I saw a white van parked on the road, and I got scared. The gardeners weren't familiar with the roads of Hinamizawa, and they got lost trying to take a shortcut on their way back. That's all. But why did they ask for Rena? Why did they ask about Rena? I had it totally twisted around? I believed the fake-sounding story, believed that the Sonozaki family was working behind the scenes, and I fabricated the existence of a group of fanatical believers in my mind. But why did they ask for Rena? right? Why did they hit you in chapter 1? Right? Like what? No, there's more to this, Keiichi. We're not done with that. We aren't done with that. Worse, I doubted Mion. Damn it. I'm such a fool. She's my friend. We took each other's hands that day, saying that we were a family made of friends, and that friends were friends, no matter what. I said that, but then I doubted my friend. I'm so stupid. Anyway, Rena was the problem. She also needed to wake up from this crazy delusion. Oh god, Keiichi, oh no. I had to hurry and wake her up. Rena seemed like she had no mind to listen to anyone else. She truly believes that the Sonozaki family are the masterminds of a large-scale conspiracy. I am terrified. I am horrified. Oh god. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh god. I remembered the plate number of the white van, and I also remembered their faces. Without a doubt, this was one of the vans that have been following me. So far, I've confirmed that 3 or 4 cars have been following me. Oh, great. Good. Awesome. I can especially recall this white van because it followed me around the longest of all. The people who are in the other cars must be the lookouts, and this one is the van tasked with the direct contact, like kidnapping or assassination. Right, of course. Yeah, what a good... Thank God, right? Awesome. I'm glad we get to see the contrast here between Keiichi and Rena and the way they're thinking about things, right? The lookouts secure the surroundings, and the ones in this van attack the target. Like, Keiichi's gonna walk up to her and start trying to convince her there's nothing to worry about when she's thinking like this. Like, oh man. That's a common maneuver involved in both kidnapping and assassination. The scrapbook said that too. Oh... If so, I'd better watch out, because it was them, not the lookouts, who came to the school premises. I don't think they'll attack me while I'm in school. They're in the early stage of their covert operations now, hiding their fangs and claws into the last stage of their horrifying scheme. That's why they won't take action in the school, where people are watching. But it looked like they were talking with Chi-sensei in a very friendly way. I could only hear bits and pieces of their conversation, but it sounded very suspicious. I tried to remember the chatter and the movements of their mouths. I played my memory of it like a videotape in my mind.
Maido!
どうもご苦労様です。今日も暑いですね。
いいえいいえ。
Doesn't words she doesn't remember, I guess. Yeah. Or couldn't hear, I
ではすみ
suppose.
ません。今日もよろしくお願いいたします。
はい、よろしくお願いします。これ、うちの事務屋から渡すように言われましたんで。
ですね。ありがとうございます。わあ、空欄ですね。はい、お預かりします。
はい、それでは。りますんで。
Oh god, I used the information I had to guess what was going on. I played the video again and again in my mind, and also paused it and played it in slow motion again to check many times. Then, something unbelievably horrifying started to emerge. There's no doubt that they are acquainted with Chi-sensei, but I've never seen them visit the school before, so it's hard to believe that Chi-sensei is their contact. There's no doubt that they're the death squad under the direct control of the Sonozaki family. They have the local accents, which proves they were chosen from the Sonozaki Corps. The death squad was talking to Chi-sensei. They know each other. What's their relationship? Who's Chi-sensei anyway? Oh no, right, yeah. During the dam conflict, Hinamizawa's school was closed and it was merged with the one in Okonomiya. But the Onigashiki Guardians didn't accept that, and they made a part of the forestry service building into a school. But needless to say, the school they made didn't have a teacher. So, it was only going to be a token form of resistance. But, a teacher who had a strong passion for education felt sorry for the children, and she came to work here. That was Rumiko Chi-sensei. It was obviously strange. Teachers are government employees, and they normally belong to their prefectures. As long as they lie low and don't cause trouble, they don't get fired and they don't get demoted. They can work up until the official retirement age, and they're guaranteed to get a fixed retirement fund. She was one of those government employees, but she defied the Board of Education to come work for Hinamizawa. Because she's passionate and she cares. She wanted to be here, right? Like, come on. The villagers admire her as a teacher of passion. I heard that Oriyu Sonozaki herself successfully negotiated with the Board of Education that suspended Chi-sensei for defying their orders. It was easy to get an answer from this by connecting the dots. Chi-sensei was recruited by Oriyu Sonozaki as a teacher to work at the school the Onigashiki Guardians had created. It is so over. Like, it is so over, right? Like, I thought Shion lost her mind, but it's so over. Like, oh god. In other words, she was already working for Oriyu before she came here. As for the principal, he was the principal of the school in Hinamizawa from the beginning. He's a respected person of the region, and he's been closely associated with the three families for a long time. So that means this school has been under the control of the Sonozaki family all along. That's why Chi-sensei is acquainted with the Death Squad. It makes sense now. They're just some gardeners, like they've been here before. She's not acquainted with them. It's over. It's over. Not that I think they actually are just gardeners, I think there actually is something going on, but I don't know what, right? Like, oh my, it's so over. I don't know. Chi-sensei confirmed that I came to school today, made a phone call, and called them here? I don't know, I don't want to know why she called them here. If she called them just to monitor me, they'd wait near the gate until class was over. But they came onto the school premises. Why? Stop pretending to be a fool, Rena Ryugu. Do you think nothing will happen if you pretend not to notice it? Think hard, and calm down, Rena Ryugu. What would they try to do to me today in school? In school? How are they going to do anything with my classmates and friends around me? It's easy. Chi-sensei will tell me to come to the teacher's office during the last class of the day. What about my clubmates? That's easy, too. Chi-sensei can easily make them go home early, using her authority as a teacher. She can make up any reason she wants. Maybe the classroom is going to have carpentry work done today, so they can't stay in school. Oh, God. Oh, it's so over. Oh, it's so over. What do we do? 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 Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. See? There's no doubts. They clearly said they're ready to do it today. And what else? Oh, God. How did she interpret that? I see. They gave Chi-sensei an envelope with some documents in it. That blank is an eerie phrase. Was my name supposed to be in the blank? Rena, what are you talking about? It's so over. What do we do? Like, girl, it's over, right? Like, we need to intervene. We need to do something. Something needs to happen. Like, I don't know. Why is it left blank? What does that mean? I told you, Rena Ryugu. Do you think that nothing will happen if you pretend not to notice it? Stop that. So that must mean, it's like she's so, you know, like this whole idea of pretending not to notice it. It makes me think of all the stuff with her mother and the divorce and Rena and all of that, you know. It's like she doesn't want something like that to happen again, so she's got to get ahead of it. She's got to, you know, like, oh my God, oh God, oh God. Is that it's an order from higher up. It says to make Rena Ryugu become blank. Right. Of course that's what it means. I took a peek from the shadows and saw the principal taking documents out from the envelope. He started reading them. He looked stern. He looked very serious. I wish I could take a peek at the documents, but I was too far away. I kept looking at him just to see if he'd react at all. And then, the envelope caught my eye. The envelope said Okanogi Gardeners, and it had some numbers that looked like a phone number. Fortunately, I have good eyesight. I memorized the number. If they're a death squad, the gardening company must be a camouflage occupation. It probably doesn't even exist. What's crazy is that might be true! If this is some weird shit linked to Takano or something, that literally might be true. But that doesn't mean they're a Sonozaki death squad, right? So, like, oh no. Oh no. I wanted to find out. I looked for a phone. There's only one phone, and it's in the teacher's office. Fortunately, the teachers were chatting in the hallway, looking at the gardeners. It's now or never. She just runs in there. Oh my God. I made sure nobody was watching me go to the teacher's office. I rushed in and grabbed the phone on the principal's desk. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I went over the phone number in my head and dialed it up. I'm glad they have a touch-tone phone. It would have been difficult if it was a rotary dial. If somebody answered, I'd only have to ask, is this the Okanogi Gardeners? I'd wait for the answer before hanging up. It should be easy. It connected. I felt a cold chill run through my body from the bottom of my feet. Wait, don't make a quick judgment. I might have remembered the number wrong. No, I know I remembered it right. It was an easy number to remember. It's impossible to remember it wrong. Then, did I dial it wrong? I put the phone down and started over. This time, I dialed the number more slowly. We need to do something. How did this happen? How did we get here? How, like... It's over. Like, this is so bad. This is so bad. Oh my God. The teachers might be coming back at any time. In that situation, it was risky to do anything slowly. But I needed to make absolutely sure. Yeah. It's the same. There's no doubt. The company Okanogi Gardeners doesn't exist. It's just a camouflage occupation for the Sonozaki family's death squad. Right. I was too stunned to put down the receiver. The announcement kept running over and over again. The voice was cold and creepy. I hung up the phone and rushed out of the teacher's office. I ran to the bathroom and held my head in an attempt to cool down. Oh, girl, come on. Calm down, Rena. Calm down, Ryugu. Stay cool. Ryugu. I wasn't safe here anymore. If I stayed here, I might be erased, even in the open. They'd erase me? Why? They aren't certain that I have the scrapbooks. I told Keiichi-kun where I hid the scrapbooks. Yesterday, I told him I hid them in my hideout in the garbage dump. Is Keiichi-kun in cahoots with the Sonozaki family? It's over. It's over. It's over. It's over. It's all over. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Keiichi has to live up to everything that he said and that at that damn sight scene, right? That has to be the answer to everything, right? We have to put all of that into action. We have to not fail her the way that she feels we failed Satoshi. We have to I don't know, right? We have to prove her wrong somehow, right? I felt as if my head was a pot that was cooking some dubious stew. Like what? Like that is quite the line. There was only soup in my brain. I cut up clues, information, and facts, just like I'd cut vegetables, and threw them into the pots. Some of them were floating on the surface, and others were on the bottom of the pots. They were being cooked in a boiling soup. No, it can't be. Keiichi-kun is on my side. He's the only one who's on my side. She wants that to be true, but she feels like it must be a lie, right? It's like she's so untrusting. She doesn't want, like, you know, like something like that to happen again. You know, like with her mother and all of that, right? He held out his hand to me at the trash piles. There was no lie in that hand. When he grabbed my wrist, I felt nothing but a strong and pure heart. He promised me he'd be on my side. I shouldn't doubt Keiichi-kun. He's the only one I should trust. He's the only one who's on my side right now. But, oh god, but he talked to me on, and it's gonna be so, like... Oh no, oh no, oh no. I said it out loud on purpose, full of regret that I doubted Keiichi-kun, the only one who is on my side. Now that I think about it, whether I have the scrapbooks or not might not matter to them. Erase anyone who is suspicious. That's the safest way. Does that mean they're in a hurry? The day of Oishiro-sama's revival might be just around the corner, and that's why they're trying to get rid of any small fish bones that are stuck in the throat, by any means, before it's too late. We don't need her anymore. Just erase her if you're worried so much. I could easily picture Oryu Sonozaki saying that. Picture? No, she did say that. That's why they're here today. What should I do? What should I do? Should I wait until school is over? I was like a fish in a pond. No matter how many times I escaped from the net, I was in the pond, and they owned the pond. I didn't stand a chance. Then, what should I do now? I couldn't keep escaping from the net. I should get out of the ponds. I didn't know how to fight them. I didn't know who's on my side. I was about to give in to despair. But now, I'd have to think about how to survive this, so I'd at least have time to think about how to fight against them. I have to get out of this pond. Oh, it's so over. Like, when I was about to leave the bathroom, one of my classmates came in. I pretended to be sick and talked to the girl while leaning on the wall. Okay, gonna like sneak out, I guess? I shouldn't let Shi-sensei know that I'm leaving school early if I'm trying to run away from them. But if I didn't, then they might think I ran away without cause. That might lead them to chase after me without mercy. If that happens, I don't stand a chance. They're planning to capture me after school's over, but I happened to feel sick and left school early. She's just gonna go, like, what is she gonna do? Like, what is she gonna do? She can never go to school again. She can't trust anyone ever again. She's gonna go to the damn site. She's gonna sit in her hideout. And I don't know. Like, it's over. Like, if they took it that way, they wouldn't think that I noticed the noose tightening around me. I was about to go back to the classroom to get my bag, but I changed my mind and turned around. Oh, God. I didn't need my bag anymore. I realized nobody was watching me, so I stopped pretending to be sick and started running. Started sprinting away, like, oh, girl. Come on. Like... like, what are we doing?
Chie-sensei, ここがおかしいですぞ。
おかしい？どうかなさいましたか？
見積書と請求書の日付が空欄になっておりますぞ。ここは今日の日付ではないのですかな？
Yeah.
そこはお役所の都合らしいんです。見積書の日付と請求書の日付が同じだと、なんだか都合が悪いそうで、庶務係さんから空欄にするようよく念を押されています。
あとそれから請求書に書いてある電話番号と封筒に書いてある電話番号が違っています。
Sure, why not?
どちらが正しいのですかな？
あらやだ、本当ですね。社長
Oh god, it's so over.
はい。どうしました
Like,
ね
they're just like, oh, we moved. Sorry, we changed numbers
請
recently.
求書に書いてある電話番号と封筒の電話番号が違ってま
Jesus
すけど、
Christ.
どちらが正しいのですか？
ああ
Ooh.
請求書の方の電話番号が正しいんで、先代の事務所の時の封筒がま
Oh
だだいぶ余って
god.
たもんなんで
What's crazy is I actually think there is something up with them, though. Right? I think there is something up with the white van, and they are following Rena for some reason. But it can't be a Sonozaki death squad. What's happening? What is going on? I don't know. I don't know.
すんませんね。
Oh
バイ
god.
トの子に全部
Oh
新しい番
god.
号のハンコを押しとくように言ったんだけどな。すんまへんすんまへん。消しておいてもらえますかね。
Awesome. 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 Just fucking horrible, right? Like, this is terrible. Like, this is awful. What do we do? It's over. Like, lunch takeout list 3. Oh, Rena. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? God. The danger of culture-bound syndrome lies in the fact that it can easily trigger delusional misidentification syndrome. That is to say, in the current case, every time the patient sees something trivial, she tries to interpret it as a curse. It's believed that as a result of the accumulation of these events in an understandable form, a delusional system is created, ultimately leading to paranoia. Furthermore, the patient is exhibiting slight signs of a personality disorder. Of course, it's at a very mild level, and it's not causing any hindrance whatsoever to the patient's daily life. It's common for even healthy individuals to have primary delusions in their daily lives, but they usually ignore it automatically without recognition, since those delusions are nonsensical. However, there are cases where these delusions accumulate despite being incomprehensible. It largely depends on the particular characteristics of the individual, and it's believed that the patient shows relatively strong characteristics in this area. I believe you're very much aware that primary delusions are categorized into 3 different kinds. Delusional mood is the feeling of impending crisis without basis. Delusional intuition is the feeling of a sense of duty or goal without basis. Delusional perception is the feeling of a baseless cause against a baseless target. In the patient's case, it's believed that these incomprehensible delusions accumulated acted out simultaneously within the culture-bound syndrome, which triggered a delusional misidentification syndrome. And it ultimately caused the incomprehensible delusions to become understandable by interpreting them as a curse. Yeah, I mean, the human brain does that, right? Yeah. The comprehensible delusional system induces understandable secondary delusions, further strengthening the patient's delusional system with the passage of time. The delusional parasitosis mentioned earlier can be considered a secondary delusion. A common factor of all cases of paranoia is that even after an outbreak, they still appear perfectly normal with no change in their personalities. The patients are unaware of their own ailments, and due to their personal interpretation of their delusional system, there are many cases where patients arm themselves logically, making it extremely difficult for a third party to point out that they're having a delusion. Right, yeah. Furthermore, although it may depend on the tendency of the delusions, there are also cases where a persecutory delusion turns into a pursuit delusion, or a conspiracy delusion, resulting in the patient creating an imaginary enemy and taking up antisocial behavior. For example, there are cases where believers of a religious cult were deeply influenced by the cult founder's paranoid visions, which shifted the group into a conspiracy delusion, and that made them conduct antisocial behavior in the name of self-defense. Although no such cases have been reported in Japan yet, it could very well happen in the near future. Fortunately, the patient hasn't reached that serious condition as of now. With proper treatment, she should be able to make a full recovery. Please make sure that her father also understands that this is not an unusual case, but something caused by the accumulation of a number of innocent factors that anyone could have. The patient can be treated only by deepening her bond with her father. As long as she has that bond, she can certainly be treated. Well, God, I don't know about that. For the reasons above, I don't know if she has that, in a way, you know. For the reasons above, if the patient is returned to her home village, I strongly recommend that the patient continue to receive guidance from specialized medical institutions. Please excuse me for writing such a long letter. Thank you for reading this until the very end. Oh, Rena. Oh, Jesus. Well, I am horrified and terrified, and it's over. So I guess that summarizes my thoughts right now. Surely we can help her. Surely we can do something, right? Surely, right? Like, I hope we can. I don't know. It's just getting worse, and I don't know what we're gonna do. But maybe we can live up to everything that Keiichi said about believing in your friends and being there for them, and we can fix it all. I don't know. That's my only hope. So I suppose that is it. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, leave a comment, tell me what you think, and I will see you in the next one.